Xiao Jinyan opened her eyes and found herself in an unfamiliar place. Thick white fog surrounded her with visibility less than 2 meters. She was lying on a carpet roughly 2 meters long and 2 meters wide. Unlike ordinary carpets, the one beneath her was moving slowly forward through the dense fog. System, welcome to the survival game. You are currently in Survival Zone 2, which holds 100,000 participants in total. This is your first instance, mist-filled floating lands. Your top priority right now is to stay alive. Death within the game means real-world death. The mist-filled floating lands instance will last 3 days. Toxic rain will descend after 3 days. Upgrade your flying carpet to level 2 drafty straw-shed flying carpet as soon as possible to shelter from the toxic rain. Lastly, the fog holds both despair and hope. Wish you all a pleasant game. After the mechanical voice faded, Xiao Jinyan took a long moment to process her situation. She had been pulled into this survival game. The system told her she was in Zone 2, home to 100,000 people. There were likely several other zones, and the total number of participants might exceed 100 million. Xiao Jinyan stood up, gradually getting her balance so she could move about on the flying carpet. She jumped up and down a little. The surface felt as solid as regular ground, thankfully not sagging under her weight. Moving around would have been far harder otherwise. She scanned her surroundings. Nothing stretched out before her but endless white fog. There was no sound at all. Since she was already here, she might as well accept it. Complaining would get her nowhere. Time spent complaining was better spent figuring out what to do next. Tired from standing, she sat down. The flying carpet was completely empty apart from herself. There was no new player gift pack whatsoever. At some point, a question mark appeared in front of her. She tapped it, and a control panel-like interface unfolded, displaying her personal stats. Name: Xiao Jinyan. Charm: 3 mental aptitude, 2 physical strength, 1 agility, 1 luck, 2 mental power, 12. She understood most of these values, but what exactly was mental power? As if answering her unspoken question, the public chat channel beside the control panel began scrolling frantically. Wait, where on earth have I been dragged to? That voice said dying in the game means dying in real life. This is terrifying. Who dragged me here? Did anybody ask for my consent? When I get out, I'll make whoever's responsible pay. Let's not talk about getting out. First try to survive these 3 days. Ugh, I was working overtime without eating before I got pulled here. I'm starving right now. Same here. Where are we supposed to get food? Xiao Jinyan closed the chat channel. It was full of unproductive whining. She had only eaten a simple bread before going to sleep, and hunger was gnawing at her now too. Suddenly the flying carpet jolted faintly. Though subtle, Xiao Jinyan noticed it. She looked all around. She finally spotted half of a mineral water bottle toward the carpet's right rear. Half of it was tucked under the carpet, half sticking out. The flying carpet was about to drift past it. Xiao Jinyan hurried over, grabbed the bottle and pulled it aboard. She sat on the flying carpet gasping for breath. She had nearly fallen off while rushing for the bottle. Glancing down into the white fog, a chill ran through her. She suspected endless bottomless abyss lay beneath. Falling would leave no trace of a body. She twisted open the cap and drank a few sips to steady herself. Then she went to sit at the front edge of the carpet. Seeing that water bottle reminded her of the system's words. The fog holds both despair and hope. Xiao Jinyan believed food and other useful supplies were hidden within the white mist. Survival depended on finding them herself. Without further hesitation, she stretched both hands out into the fog from the slowly moving flying carpet, searching thoroughly, even reaching under the carpet. After roughly 3 hours of rummaging, Xiao Jinyan obtained mineral water ×2, forage ×3, wood plank ×1, wooden stick ×1, small bread ×3. This was a decent haul for her, far better than having nothing to eat at all. Her arms ached from holding them out for so long. She sat down, tore open a small bread and ate it with some water, then opened the public chat channel again. I'm so hungry. I've got no food or water. I don't think I'll even make it till tomorrow, let alone 3 days. Amid wave after wave of hunger-driven complaints, one message stood out sharply. Hey, has nobody noticed supplies hidden inside the surrounding fog? It was like a stone tossed into the sea that stirred up huge ripples. The channel fell silent. Xiao Jinyan knew those players must have started searching for supplies. She wondered whether supplies were limited. She also wondered if other players were nearby. If so, supplies would turn into a race, first come, first served. Those who found nothing would starve. With that thought, Xiao Jinian finished her bread in one go, drank 2 mouthfuls of water, and got back up to search for more supplies. She kept searching tirelessly for an unknown length of time. When her arms grew too heavy to lift, she sat down to rest. Glancing back at the pile of supplies she had gathered on the carpet, a sense of accomplishment washed over her. A good stockpile had built up. Since the flying carpet had no shelter of any kind, she stacked everything in the center to keep items from tumbling off. Once sufficiently rested, she counted her full stock. Mineral water times 5 forage times 10 wood plank times 3 wooden stick times 4 small bread times 7 cloth times 1. She unfolded the cloth. There was enough fabric for a complete bedding set or several sets of clothing. But she had neither tools nor sewing skills, so she simply stored it away for later. Lastly, she picked up the most intriguing item among all her loot, a glowing white question mark card. She had grabbed it while scavenging and had not gotten around to examining it. Now she turned it over in her hands. There was no descriptive text on it. She stared at the question mark printed in its center. Maybe the key lay within that symbol? Xiao Jinian tapped it with her fingertip. The instant her finger made contact, a burst of white light flashed before her eyes and the card vanished. In its place floated 2 large, oddly shaped net pouches. She took hold of them. The system automatically scanned the items and usage instructions appeared on her control panel. Equipment, special net pouch description, can be mounted on both sides of the flying carpet. Supplies that touch the nets will automatically fall inside. This is a one-time use item. It will expire and be recalled 8 hours after activation. Reading the description made Xiao Jinian's eyes light up. This was an incredible asset in her current situation. How little could a pair of bare hands collect? With these 2 large net pouches, she would have a steady supply of materials for 8 hours. Each net opening was framed by an iron frame 1 meter long and half a meter wide, attached to thick hemp rope netting that looked quite sturdy. Xiao Jinian had worried about lacking tools to attach them to the carpet. She soon discovered the net pouches came with huge clamping plates. She just needed to fasten the edges of the net openings onto the flying carpet. She gave them a shake, they held firmly. Now that the nets were doing the work, she planned to rest properly to gather strength for what lay ahead. Staring at her control panel, she thought to herself, she needed to find more of these cards in the future. They were a fantastic way to obtain gear. She checked the chat channel. Nobody had mentioned finding cards yet. Of course, other players might have found them and chosen to keep quiet, just like her. Valuable treasures were meant to be kept for oneself. Well rested, she opened her control panel to check the net pouch's status. Equipment, special net pouch description, 23 minutes of usage elapsed. About to close the panel, she spotted a small satchel-shaped icon in the top right corner out of the corner of her eye. Curious, she tapped it. System basic missions. 1. Submit forage times 10. Reward, biscuits times 1 pack 5 individual sachets. 2. Submit wood plank times 5. Reward, ham sausages times 1 bundle 10 pieces. 3. Submit wooden stick times 5. Reward, windproof lighter times 1. System advanced missions. 1. Capture sparrow times 1. Reward, hemp rope times 1. 2. Capture pigeon times 1. Reward, bowl times 1. Xiao Jinian was shocked. There were missions available. Yet the system had not notified her about them. Evidently players could choose whether or not to complete them. They were not mandatory. She read over the requirements. The forage mission was the easiest by far. Forage was abundant within the fog. She had already gathered 10 bundles during her earlier hours of scavenging. Each bundle was small. Any diligent player could complete that mission without much trouble. The advanced missions required capturing birds. Since arriving in this game, Xiao Jinian had not seen a single bird. That explained why only 1 specimen was required for each. For one thing, encounters were rare. For another, birds moved fast and were extremely hard to catch. Still, maybe her net pouches could work. Who knew? Perhaps some foolish bird would fly right into them. Fully rested, she sat toward the front of the carpet. Supplies were scarce in the exact middle and more plentiful along the 2 sides where the nets were mounted. She could only reach for items in the central zone. She scavenged for a good while longer. Her arms grew sore again, and she only managed to pick up 1 extra bundle of forage. She stood up, intending to haul in the nets and collect whatever they had caught. As she rose to her feet, she heard a sound. Holding her breath, she listened closely. Bird chirps. The sound drew nearer. Xiao Jinyan spun around, scanning for where the bird was coming from. A flash of color caught her eyes, a sparrow. She stretched out her hands trying to grab it, but the small bird was quick and nimble. Several attempts failed, and she watched helplessly as it flew away. She sank down onto the carpet, dejected. My hemp rope. While she sat feeling glum, that very same sparrow circled back, wheeling around her as if taunting her. Come catch me. Come and get me. Thud. A dull impact rang out. The sparrow lay twitching on the surface of the flying carpet. Xiao Jinyan held a wooden stick in her hand, staring down at the bird. Show off. Hee. That hemp rope is mine after all. She briefly considered eating the sparrow. Even small prey was better than nothing. But she had no means to cook it. She certainly was not going to eat it raw. No way. She was not that desperate yet. She picked up the sparrow and set it aside, then went a reel in the net pouches. She pulled in the left one first, then the right. When she saw the huge pile of supplies in front of her, a knowing grin spread across her face. Xiao Jinyan's stockpile had grown enormously. Current supplies: mineral water times 12, forage times 22, small bread times 20, wood plank times 10, wooden stick times 8, cloth times 2, card times 1. The supplies were monotonous, but there was a great quantity of them. She was delighted with 4 hours' worth of such yields. She no longer feared starving within these 3 days. Though, all the bread tasted exactly the same. Still, having food at all was what mattered. Exhausted and sleepy after all this activity, she could not tell day from night in this realm, having no sense of time. She reattached the net pouches and planned to take a short nap. She would examine the new card after collecting the next batch of supplies. She could barely keep her eyes open. Worried about the net's time limit, she slept fitfully. She woke many times, opening her control panel to check how much time remained. When only 10 minutes were left, she got up and retrieved all the gathered supplies. The moment she finished collecting the final haul, time ran out. The 2 large net pouches vanished from the carpet, automatically recalled by the system. Besides the usual materials, this second haul held no new cards, but it contained another sparrow, apparently knocked unconscious. Setting the supplies aside, she picked up the new card to see what she would draw this time. She had not noticed before, this card was golden. Common sense told her golden cards must yield far better rewards than white ones. Wow, excitement surged through her. She tapped the question mark just as she had done previously. Golden light burst forth. A golden light orb hovered before her. When she reached out and touched it, the orb shot straight into her body. She quickly opened her status panel to check her character sheet. Sure enough, an equipment column had appeared beneath her original stats. Equipment: Level 1, spatial storage upgradable, built-in preservation function, food will not spoil. Xiao Jinyan nearly jumped for joy. It was the spatial storage she had read about in novels. Now she no longer needed to worry about where to store her mountain of supplies. It was like a pillow delivered just as she felt sleepy. Focusing her mind, she visualized the space. A square chamber roughly 2 meters by 2 meters unfolded in her perception. It was small for now, but upgradable. Who knew what surprises future upgrades might bring? Glancing at the supplies scattered across the carpet, she thought the command, store. Every item on the carpet vanished into spatial storage. When she mentally viewed inside, she frowned. Everything was jumbled messily. Some small bread loaves had gotten squashed. Unfortunately, she could not physically enter the space. An idea struck her. Could she rearrange things using mental will? She had already stored items purely with thought. Concentrating fully on the interior of the storage space, she mentally reorganized everything. There was no concept of height inside. She stacked all the wood planks neatly to form a base, then piled forage bundles on top of them. On the other half of the space's floor, she sorted wooden sticks, food and bottled water into separate piles. Having finished arranging everything, she withdrew her mental focus. Before she could sit down and rest, her vision went black and she lost consciousness. She woke after an unknown span of time, overcome with hunger and a throbbing headache. She ate several small breads and drank 1 bottle of water, then checked her character stats. Name: Xiao Jinyan. Charm: 3 mental aptitude, 2 physical strength, 1 agility, 1 luck, 2 mental power, 7 equipment, level 1 spatial storage upgradable, built-in preservation function, food will not spoil. She was alarmed. Her mental power had stood at 12 before. How had it dropped to 7? Had this something to do with fainting? She retraced her last moments before blacking out. the spatial storage. She had expended a great deal of mental effort rearranging items inside it. Evidently overtaxing her mental power had caused her to pass out. To test her theory, she kept her attention fixed on the mental power stat. About 10 minutes passed. She watched the value climb from 7 to 8. Her guess was correct. Excessive mental power consumption had knocked her out. Fortunately, mental power regenerated slowly. She needed to figure out how to raise its maximum value soon. She still did not know the upgrade method, however. Opening the mission list, she submitted her 2 captured sparrows. Congratulations for completing Advanced Mission 1. Reward: hemp rope ×1. Congratulations for completing Advanced Mission 1. Reward: hemp rope ×1. She had wondered whether each advanced mission could only be completed once, but had decided to give it a try submitting both birds. To her delight, it worked. She picked up the hemp ropes that materialized on the flying carpet. Each was roughly 2 meters long and felt very sturdy when she pulled at them. She tallied up her total resources once more: mineral water ×17, small bread ×26, forage ×30, wood plank ×18, wooden stick ×13, cloth ×3. She had realized by now that only these few types of supplies spawned within the fog. The selection was limited, but easy to gather. Upgrading the basic flying carpet to level 2, drafty straw shed flying carpet required: forage ×10, wood plank ×5, wooden stick ×4. Xiao Jinyan already possessed far more than enough materials. She opened her control panel and selected upgrade without hesitation. Instantly, a straw shed materialized upon the flying carpet. 4 wooden sticks formed its supports. 5 wood planks made the roof, layered over with bundles of forage. The shed was open-sided and drafty. It stood low. Xiao Jinyan needed to bend slightly to step underneath. The 2-meter-wide carpet had roughly 1.5 meters occupied by the shed, leaving a small area for her to move around. It was genuinely constructed from the exact resources she had collected. She shook the frame gently. It felt reasonably solid. Drafts blew through it, but it was not cold here, so she would not fall ill. Plenty of surplus materials remained. She exchanged resources for the biscuit pack, the bundle of ham sausages, and the windproof lighter. She opened the public chat channel to see how other players were progressing. Ugh, all we get is small bread over and over. Can't we get any different food? Right? Does anyone have other food? I'll trade supplies for meat. 1 bundle of forage for 1 portion of meat. You have got to be kidding. Forage is trivial to gather. What fool would give you meat for that, assuming anyone even has meat? Xiao Jinyan was taken aback by how shameless that player was, but she kept silent and continued reading. How dare you talk to me like that? Do you know who I am? When I get out of here, you'll regret this. I don't care who you used to be. Right now you are just a loser offering worthless forage. That man sent no further replies. Perhaps he felt humiliated, or perhaps he was plotting something. In this desperate situation, people's true natures were unpredictable. That brief argument soon faded. The chat kept scrolling rapidly, and one post caught Xiao Jinyan's eye. 1 bag of chicken drumsticks in exchange for 5 bottles of mineral water plus 10 small breads. Players could list goods for trade or purchase through the control panel. System escrow prevented scamming. Both sides submitted their promised items to the system to complete exchanges. This message drew Xiao Jinyan's attention, along with many other players. You actually have meat? Where did you get it? That's none of your business. Do you want to trade or not? Look, can we do partial trade first? I'll give you 2 bottles of mineral water for the drumstick. If it's real, I'll send you the rest afterward. Xiao Jinyan rolled her eyes. That scheme was so obvious the schemer's intentions were practically audible. Would the trader really fall for it? If you lack supplies, don't waste my time. Anybody serious about trading? Fellow survivor, can you lower your asking price a little? None of us have that much food to spare. Come on, it's meat, but you can't charge that much for it. Everyone is starving. We can barely get enough to eat, yet you get to have meat. You should give your extra supplies to everyone. Hiding them all for yourself is shameless. That person was infuriated by those outrageous remarks. Who's being shameless here? If you don't want your own 2 hands, chop them off and feed them to the dogs. You lack the ability to fend for yourselves, yet you resent others who do. Yes, I'm better than all of you good-for-nothings, so what? Xiao Jinyan looked away. Ever since she had arrived here, she had kept busy and put in a great deal of effort. Bread could fill her stomach, yet it was no substitute for meat. After some thought, she finally decided to trade for that chicken drumstick. She was simply craving meat. Before completing the trade, she sent the other party a private message. I won't ask where the chicken drumstick came from, but could you tell me why you're trading meat for bread and water? The other side seemed to hesitate whether to answer. A minute later, Qiao Jinyan received a reply. I have plenty of wood, hay, and birds over here, but very little edible food and water. Supplies like those are extremely hard to come by. Qiao Jinyan pondered this. It seemed players were scattered across different zones, each with its own distribution of resources. Her current location was actually quite favorable, with abundant and varied supplies. Trading so many resources for a single bag of chicken drumsticks might seem reckless, yet she had no choice. She craved meat and needed to replenish her energy. Furthermore, possibly as a lingering side effect from overexerting her mental power earlier, even though her mental stat was back at 12, she constantly felt lightheaded. Besides, her stockpile was fairly ample. She had no idea how much time had passed, but she sensed the toxic rain was still some way off. She would keep searching for more supplies. Once she confirmed the trade, a bag holding a chicken drumstick dropped onto her flying carpet. She picked it up for a look. There was only one drumstick inside the bag, slightly larger than she had expected, the kind of ready-to-eat drumstick sold in supermarkets. Though she had not asked about its origin, she had a fair idea where it had come from. Cards. Qiao Jinyan carefully tore open the packaging and sat on her flying carpet to enjoy her luxurious chicken drumstick. After finishing it with great satisfaction, she wiped her mouth, still wanting more. Nothing beat meat. Once done, she counted her remaining supplies. Mineral water times 12, small bread rolls times 16, wood planks times 13, hay times 20, wooden sticks times 9, cloth times 3, hemp rope times 2, windproof lighter times 1. 5 ham sausages left, all biscuits were gone. Taking stock brought her clarity. Within this zone, she might not be the wealthiest player, yet she was comfortably well off. She took 10 portions of hay out of her storage space and spread them beneath her straw shelter. Despite its name, the flying carpet felt almost as hard and cold as bare ground. Waking up after sleeping on it always left her aching all over. The hay would make resting much more comfortable. Once finished, she lay down inside the shelter to get some sleep. She now slept whenever she felt drowsy and avoided pushing herself too hard. It was far too dangerous to operate while fatigued. One misstep and she could tumble off. Lying atop the hay, she stared out at the thick white fog all around and soon drifted off. Elsewhere, on another drafty level, 2 straw shelter flying carpet. Lun Yan, who had received the water and bread, eagerly twisted open the mineral water bottle and drank half of it in one go. She had suffered terrible thirst these past 2 days. Back before arriving in this world, she drank at least 4 cups of water every day. Here, food and drink were both scarce. Though she had drawn a snack gift pack from a card, it contained only food with no liquids at all. After drinking half the bottle, she forced herself to stop. That water had cost her a chicken drumstick. She had to ration it carefully. She still had food she could trade away, yet doing so would draw unwanted attention. Qiao Jinyan was sound asleep when loud commotion jolted her awake. She opened her eyes alertly and scanned her surroundings. The white fog had thinned considerably, letting her see further into the distance. Several figures were visible not far away. At long last, she had run into other people. She said nothing, quietly pulling a wooden stick out of her storage space and gripping it firmly. One could never be too cautious. The noise grew louder. Without her noticing, her flying carpet had drifted close to the group. She realized her carpet moved faster than everyone else's, probably because all her supplies sat safely in storage and added no extra weight. Hand over all the meat. Don't push your luck. Why waste words with her? Just take it by force. From what she overheard, the girl they were harassing must be the one who had traded the chicken drumstick to her. For some reason, she had been targeted. Lun Yan stood on her level, 2 flying carpet, facing down 2 men and 1 woman. The stout, pot-bellied man who had not spoken a word appeared to be their leader, while the scrawny man and the woman acted as his accomplices. The 3 of them shared a single flying carpet. The 2 carpets drifted forward at matching speeds yet kept a gap between them, so the trio dared not leap across to Lun Yan's carpet to rob her directly. Lun Yan possessed no storage space, so all her supplies lay exposed on her carpet. She had tried to conceal them behind planks and hay, but she had forgotten to cover everything again after retrieving food earlier. The group passing by had spotted her stockpile. With no proper weapon, she clutched her wooden stick tightly. She could not show fear. If she let them rob her once, they would keep coming back again and again. She could not rely on good fortune to keep drawing useful cards forever. Her luck might already have run out. With that thought, she fixed the three intruders with a fierce glare. If any of them so much as took a step toward her, she would strike them hard enough to send them tumbling down. Xiao Jinyan admired her stance. In a situation like this, begging for mercy would solve nothing. She only needed to look at the woman accompanying the attackers to see that truth. That woman had most likely been robbed and forced to depend on the men to survive. Her haggard face and visible bruises spoke volumes about her miserable circumstances. Still, nothing mattered more than staying alive. Sometimes yielding could be a viable survival strategy. Everyone made their own choices. Xiao Jinyan's carpet drifted nearer, and the group noticed her. She had no intention of getting involved. She kept her gaze straight ahead, waiting for her carpet to drift past theirs. As her carpet drew level with them, she tightened her grip on her wooden stick, constantly watching their movements. The pot-bellied man glanced at Xiao Jinyan's carpet and muttered, "Looks totally worthless." Xiao Jinyan pretended not to hear. She was sensible enough to know she must never flaunt her resources. Only once they were out of sight did she relax and set her stick aside. She had seen the pleading look the other woman had given her, yet she chose not to intervene. Right now she lacked the strength to help. She knew no martial arts and owned no real weapons. Those two men were physically strong. If a fight broke out, she could easily get hurt. She would not take reckless risks. Once that disturbance passed, Xiao Jinyan resumed gathering supplies. Even though her shelter was already upgraded, extra resources could prove useful later. No one ever regretted having too many supplies. While searching, she caught sight of mountain peaks faintly visible in the distance. The view was rather striking. Wait. Scenery? Mountain peaks? She rubbed her eyes and looked around again. It was no illusion. There really were mountains. The fog had cleared substantially, revealing the world around her. Good heavens, she truly was high up in the sky. Thankfully, her carpet was fairly large, because heights terrified her. Abandoning her search for supplies, she stored everything she had just collected and slowly retreated into her straw shelter. Sleep eluded her, so she opened the public chat channel to pass time. Can you believe I'm sitting on a flying carpet soaring through the sky? Has anyone else noticed the fog has thinned a lot? I'm so glad I can finally see what's around me. I never want to feel that lost and helpless again. Could anyone lend me some planks and wooden sticks? I can barely find any upgrade materials here. I've only had 2 small bread rolls to keep me going. That sounds rough. I can spare some planks for you, no need to pay me back. Thank you so much. You're a lifesaver, I'll never forget this kindness. Don't mention it. We're all in this together. We ought to help each other survive. One generous message sparked a flood of requests. Could you spare 2 more planks for my upgrade? Sure, no trouble at all. I'll send them over. I haven't had proper food in ages. Could you give me something to eat? When food was brought up, the generous player grew hesitant. He had plenty of spare planks taking up space on his carpet, which was why he had given them away. Yet his food only just sustained himself. I'm afraid I can't spare any food. The girl who had asked for food noticed his hesitation and tried another approach. Would you add me as a friend? I can share some personal photos with you. What kind of photos? Just some private ones. Their conversation ended there. Xiao Jinyan was not surprised. This was only the beginning. Things would grow far more chaotic as time went on. Still, it served as a sharp reminder. Having enough supplies to eat and drink was one thing, being able to protect them was another. She really needed to start building up her physical strength. She dared not train blindly. She had read online before that exercising without proper guidance could lead to bad form and physical injury. So she settled for simple workouts, basic calisthenics. She resolved to do 2 sets of calisthenics whenever she had free time. It was better than no exercise at all. Before she could start her new fitness routine, something unexpected happened. Giant glowing characters materialized across the sky. Countdown, 8 hours. Hey, can everyone see those words in the sky? What does this mean? Does it mean we get to go home once the countdown hits 0? Don't be ridiculous. Didn't the system warn us we need to upgrade before the toxic rain arrives? Toxic rain? What's that? Is it rain that poisons you? The chat fell into stunned silence. Toxic rain will shower food down from the sky. Just stand outside with your arms open to catch it when it starts pouring. Xiao Jinyan paid no mind to the banter in chat. She was busy gathering as many supplies as she possibly could. While many panicked over the countdown, Plenty of sharp-minded players hurried to stockpile resources. No one knew how long the toxic rain would last. The dungeon objective was simple: survive. The 3-day window was only preparation time. The system had never specified how long the toxic rain would continue. What if it poured for 10 days or half a month? Time slipped by, and the countdown dropped from 8 hours down to 2. The last traces of white fog vanished completely. The sky turned a murky gray. A wind began to blow. It was gentle at first, not strong enough to rock the flying carpets. With everything now visible, Qiao Jinyan retreated into her shelter once more. The supplies had vanished along with the fog, for they had only existed hidden within it. Thankfully, her reserves were solid. Now everything depended on how long the rain would persist. The wind chilled her. Expecting it to grow colder once rain began, she retrieved planks and hay from storage. She propped planks vertically between the edges of her carpet and the shelter's roof. They fit perfectly. Before the rain arrived, she fitted planks across the back and both sides. She had built a crude little hut. She left gaps on 2 sides and an opening at the front for entry and to keep watch on her surroundings. The hovering countdown hung over them like a blade poised to strike. The wind picked up. Fine silver threads could be seen drifting through the air. Peering through her gaps, Qiao Jinyan watched. The toxic rain had come. Feeling the temperature drop, she laid down extra hay across her carpet for warmth and comfort. With nothing left to do, she opened the chat channel to distract herself. Ow! This rain hurts when it hits your skin. Well, it is called toxic rain. If you can still feel pain now, you might not last much longer. Don't scare me like that. Does anyone have hay to spare? I'm freezing. I'll pay you back when the toxic rain ends, please. Can anyone give me food or water? I'll pay double once this is over, I promise. Message after message begged for handouts. Qiao Jinyan had once read stories mocking foolish characters who made reckless choices. Back then, she had wondered how anyone could neglect their own survival. Yet here those exact scenarios were unfolding right in front of her. This was only the first dungeon. The system would not make it impossibly hard. Qiao Jinyan had simply been lucky enough to spawn in a well-resourced area. Other zones had uneven resource distribution, each with its own trade-offs. Some lacked building materials, but held lots of food, while others were rich in materials yet short on rations. Players could trade through their control panels to get whatever they needed if they tried. Foolish players, however, were destined to become casualties. The rain intensified. Wind no longer scattered the raindrops. Bead-sized drops hammered onto carpets and shelter roofs, striking anyone whose flying carpet had not been upgraded. Anguished shouts flooded the chat. This cursed toxic rain. I only stepped out of my shelter for a second, yet a few drops landed on my skin. It burned immediately. When I pulled my shirt up, my skin was already blistering and rotting. Is it really that dangerous? Go outside and test it yourself if you don't believe me. Not a chance. No one risks their life like that. There's no medicine here. Infected wounds can easily kill you. Everyone stay indoors. I just saw someone. Their carpet wasn't upgraded. Barely 10 seconds after the toxic rain hit them, they collapsed and went silent. There was blood all over their carpet. The person typing trembled as they wrote. A living human had perished in front of their eyes so quickly, far too quickly. Why didn't you pull them onto your carpet and save them? Right? How could you be so cold-hearted? If I had seen them, I would definitely have rescued them. Saving a life brings great merit. Plenty of grand, empty words. Qiao Jinyan could not hold back and sent a message into the channel. I'm starving with no water or food left. Could someone spare me supplies to save my life? She specifically tagged the person who had spoken about saving lives. Atchen Family Beauty, no reply came. She tagged them several more times. Atchen Family Beauty, aren't you going to earn that great merit? Empty talk, nothing more. The toxic rain kept falling. Qiao Jinyan lost track of time. She ate when hungry, drank when thirsty, and slept when tired. Occasionally she spotted other drifting flying carpets. Some players had copied her idea, propping planks upright to block wind and rain. Her stored food dwindled little by little. Even being frugal, she could not survive forever with no way to restock. Her carpet drifted aimlessly through the downpour. There was no destination. Just as Qiao Jinyan grew anxious over her shrinking supplies, the toxic rain stopped. The heavy downpour ceased in an instant, and sunlight broke through the clouds. She caught sight of the sun for the first time in a long while. She did not rush outside. She remained inside her shelter and observed cautiously. The toxic rain is over. It's finally over. I would have starved to death if it had lasted any longer. I have no food left at all. Could someone give me some drinking water? I'm dying of thirst. The rain has stopped, but where is the fog? How are we supposed to find new resources? Has anyone stepped outside? Could the sunlight be poisonous? Coward. Why would sunlight hurt you? If you're so scared, stay hidden forever. Messages filled the channel, most celebrating the end of the rain. After watching several players step out safely, Xiao Jinyan slowly exited her shelter. Before leaving, she took down all the planks she had set up. She feared others would spot her well, build shelter, and assume she hoarded valuable goods, then try to rob her. In her current state, she stood no chance in a fight. She decided to keep a low profile. Opening her control panel, she saw a notice: system upgrading. 10-minute countdown remaining. I didn't know the system could upgrade. What will it be like afterward? She had already eaten inside the shelter before dismantling the planks. Not hungry, she did a few rounds of calisthenics to pass the time. Once enough time had passed, she reopened her control panel. Countdown. 3, 2, 1. A burst of bright light washed over her, and everything before her eyes transformed. Before she could process what had happened, scorching heat rolled toward her. She hurried back into her shelter to escape the blazing sun overhead. When she recovered, she studied her new surroundings. As far as the eye could stretch lay sand, dotted with only a handful of sparse plants. Nothing else, apart from the merciless sun hanging high above. The 10-minute system upgrade following the conclusion of the first dungeon served as a brief rest period for players. The moment the upgrade completed, everyone was thrust straight into the second dungeon. The familiar whirring mechanical sound rang out. System, welcome to the survival game. You are now in Survival Zone 2. There are currently 97,705 people in Zone 2. This is your second instance, Endless Desert. Your top priority now is to stay alive. Death in game means death in reality. The Endless Desert instance lasts 8 days. Swarms of poisonous insects will attack when the 8 days end. Upgrade your flying carpet to a level 3 stone house as soon as possible. It can fend off the poisonous insects. Lastly, the desert holds both dangers and chances for survival. Wish you all a pleasant game. After hearing this, Xiao Jinyan processed a great deal of information. First, the upgraded control panel could now display the time. The real time player count was shown in the upper right corner of the public chat channel. Most importantly, the flying carpet no longer floated. It rested stationary on the desert sand. The panel displayed positioning coordinates for her dwelling, and a new item detection function had appeared. She decided she would test it when she got the chance. It seemed she would have to leave the flying carpet to search for supplies this time. When Zone 2 first opened, there had been 100,000 players. Now only 97,705 remained. More than 2,000 people had died in the first instance. Xiao Jinyan could not understand. The first instance had not been overly difficult, so why had so many perished? She pushed the thought aside. Why worry about others? As long as she survived, that was what mattered. The temperature was not unbearably hot, around 30 degrees Celsius. Still, after the comfortably cool climate of the previous instance, she had not yet adjusted. Why haven't we been sent back once the instance ended? Damn it, it's so hot. I barely have any water left. This heat gives us almost no chance to make it. People watching from home, do you think I can survive this instance? Will we keep being trapped inside one instance after another forever? Xiao Jinyan wondered the same thing. Would she really have to scrape by through endless instances for the rest of her life? After resting for a while, she checked the time. It was just past 6 in the evening. Night fell late in the desert. Having gradually grown used to the heat, Xiao Jinyan decided to go out and explore. All her belongings were stored inside her spatial storage. She grabbed a wooden stick and set off. The moment her feet sank into the sand, she felt the solid reality of the ground beneath her. She had spent so much time high up in the air, confined to such a small area. If she stayed there much longer, her legs would probably weaken from disuse. Xiao Jinyan walked slowly across the desert. Since supplies in the last instance had been found by feeling around, she bent down every so often to sift through the sand. She kept this up for half an hour. And guess what? She found absolutely nothing. Not a single thing. The work left her lower back aching. She checked the time. It was past 7. The sun hung low in the distance, about to set. She had crossed 2 sand dunes. Looking up, she could no longer see her thatched hut. Thankfully, she had positioning coordinates. She opened the control panel and pulled up the map. A red marker indicated her hut, and a triangle marked her current location. She followed the dotted line on the screen to head back. Nearly 20 minutes later, after climbing over another dune, her thatched hut came into view. Evening had arrived, and the temperature had dropped to roughly 20 degrees Celsius. Xiao Jinyan pulled her clothing tighter, closed the panel, and swung her wooden stick idly as she walked. Suddenly, a dull thud echoed. She turned toward the sound. Her stick had struck an unremarkable camel thorn bush growing out of the sand. Camel thorn was merely shrubbery. Being hit by a stick should not have produced such a heavy, muffled noise. The sound resembled hitting a wooden crate. Xiao Jinyan bent down to investigate. Scorpions and venomous insects abounded in the desert, so she dared not touch the bush with her bare hands. She tapped the camel thorn repeatedly with her stick, hoping any hidden creatures would be scared off by the noise. When nothing stirred, she used the stick to pry the object concealed beneath the shrub into the open. It was indeed a wooden chest. She picked it up and saw it was locked. She probed around inside the camel thorn but found no key. After examining it fruitlessly, she carried the chest back to her thatched hut, planning to test the new item, detection function on the panel. Once back inside, she first took a large drink of water before activating the detection feature. A square scanning frame appeared on her screen. She aimed it at the wooden chest on the ground, and its information displayed instantly. Item: Supply chest grade. 2. Xiao Jinyan's eyes lit up. No supply chests had existed in the last instance, yet she had found a grade 2-1 right at the start of this run. She was overjoyed. She held the chest, examining it excitedly, before a thought struck her. How was she supposed to open it? She reread the scan results and noticed a line of text at the very bottom asking whether she wished to open it. She had been too excited earlier to notice. Xiao Jinyan selected yes. The chest shook violently on the ground. She quickly jumped backward to keep her distance. Moments later the shaking stopped, and the lid swung open. Cautious, she waited and observed for a little while before stepping closer. She leaned over and peered inside. A golden card met her gaze. Her heart leaped. She had gotten something valuable. She eagerly tapped the card. Golden light flashed, and the card drifted down into her hand. Confusion washed over her. It still looked like a card. Had she opened it incorrectly? She flipped it over and nearly jumped for joy. It was a golden duplicate multiplier card. Duplicate multiplier card. 1 time. Use item. Speak the name of an item you already possess to the card, and it will duplicate that item for you. This was incredible. She wondered exactly how many copies it would make. Maybe 1 extra copy, maybe 10. Xiao Jinyan mentally went through her stored supplies. She could not afford to waste this card. She had to choose the most useful item she owned. Right now she only had food, drinking water, and lumber. She hesitated to use the multiplier on those. She considered saving the card for a better item later, until her eyes fell on the grade 2 supply chest sitting on the ground. Of course! Why not duplicate the supply chest itself? The system only required the item to be in her possession. This chest she had just pried open was definitely hers. Xiao Jinyan activated the duplicate multiplier card and spoke clearly to it. Duplicate my grade 2 supply chest. She waited in anticipation as the card vanished. She looked down at the ground. Where there had been 1 chest, for now sat. 1 was the original she had opened. The other 3 were the copies created by the card. It actually worked. Her excitement surged. She almost wanted to celebrate, though she had no idea how to dance. She stared at the 3 new grade 2 chests. It appeared duplicates retained the original item's grade with no degradation. Thrilled, she opened each chest one by one, growing more elated with every lid she lifted. In the end, she obtained Energy Stone ×3 grade, 1 crossbow ×1 upgradable. Range 15 meters. Comes with 5 sharp crossbow bolts. Basic martial arts manual ×1. All were extremely useful, exactly what she needed. She picked up the crossbow and turned it over in her hands, delighted. Now she had a means of self-defense, a way to train her body, and materials to upgrade her spatial storage. Information for upgrading her spatial storage surfaced in her mind. 2 energy stones were required to raise it from level 1 to level 2. She had 3, leaving 1 spare afterward. Her mental power had not increased numerically over this time. Still, while exercising her body, she had repeatedly moved and rearranged items inside her spatial storage to train her mind. Her stats had not gone up, yet she no longer fainted or even felt light, headed from constant retrieving and stowing items. Without hesitation, she chose to upgrade. A mechanical voice echoed inside her head, "Upgrade successful. Upgrade will take 10 minutes, please wait." Xiao Jinyan picked up the martial arts manual and flipped through it. It described fundamental stances and hand techniques. Fist strikes, palm pushes, hook hands, stance work including parallel stance, horse, stance, bow stance. Plus the basic 5-step fist routine. Perfect for a complete beginner like her. Night had fully fallen. She stored the manual and crossbow away. The spatial storage was still upgrading, but she could still place and retrieve items normally. Food and water were sufficient for the moment, though much had been consumed during the toxic rain of the prior instance. Her remaining supplies would sustain her for now. She pulled out a ham sausage, a loaf of bread, and a bottle of water for dinner. Compared to many other players, she was eating quite well. When she finished eating, the spatial storage finished upgrading. She eagerly turned her attention inward and was stunned. The level 2 spatial storage was vastly improved. She could step inside it physically. She found herself standing on grassy ground inside a space roughly 50 meters long and 50 meters wide. Rows of shelves stood arranged across the area. Above her stretched blue sky and white clouds. It was perpetually daytime inside. To her surprise, a plot of fertile farmland had appeared alongside several seed packets. Excitement welled up inside her. The space allowed farming. She could become self-sufficient for food. She knelt to examine the seeds: tomato, potato, chili pepper, Chinese cabbage. She could only choose 2 of the 4 varieties to plant. She selected tomatoes and potatoes. She had no cooking utensils. Cabbage and chili required preparation before eating. Potatoes also needed cooking, yet they could be prepared in more ways, and she preferred them. She received 5 tomato seeds and 5 potato seeds. She had no farming experience, but the space offered built-in instructions. Simply bury the seeds and water them. Survival rate was 100%. Additional seed varieties could be unlocked through experience. Harvesting 10 crops granted 1 new seed type. Considering her limited water supply, she planted only 1 tomato seed and 1 potato seed. She wanted to grow more, yet water for drinking remained her priority. Her search the previous day had yielded nothing besides the supply chest. She had only sifted sand and never checked bushes and plants. She resolved to search those areas tomorrow. She buried the seeds and carefully poured mineral water around them. As the water soaked into the soil, text floated before her eyes: time until maturity, 3 days. Using drinking water for irrigation felt extravagant, yet the fast growth was worth it. In 3 days, she would harvest ripe tomatoes. She set the remaining half bottle of water inside the space for tomorrow's watering. Since survival was guaranteed, she avoided overwatering. 1 bottle would serve for 2 watering sessions. Once everything was done, she exited the spatial storage and fell into a deep, satisfied sleep. The next day, Xiao Jinyan woke early. Dawn had barely broken, and the temperature was pleasant. She completed 2 sets of broadcast exercises and stretched thoroughly, then practiced the basic movements from the martial arts manual. She stopped shortly before sunrise. She rinsed her mouth with mineral water and ate breakfast, another ham sausage and bread roll. After eating, she took a piece of fabric out of storage. Sandstorms plagued the desert, so she planned to fashion a head covering and face mask. She tried tearing the fabric by hand, but it was too tough. She used her windproof lighter to burn a small cut, then ripped along the opening. After some clumsy work, she made a makeshift headscarf and face covering. She tied them securely, covering her head and most of her face, and leaving only her eyes exposed. She wrapped cloth around her feet before slipping on her slippers. She wore the long-sleeved pajamas she had arrived in. Slippers had appeared with her at the start of the instance. Her limbs were already covered, so no extra wrapping was needed. She grabbed her wooden stick and set off. She had headed straight ahead the day before. Today, she traveled in the opposite direction, starting from behind her hut. Having learned from yesterday's experience, her search went better. The desert was not endless bare sand. Scattered shrubs and patches of vegetation dotted the landscape. She checked every plant she passed with her stick. All supplies in this instance came in chests of varying grades, and she stowed every chest she found directly into storage. She traveled for an unknown distance until heat, thirst, and exhaustion weighed on her. Beneath the blazing sun, she located shade beneath some vegetation and sat down to rest. She removed her scarf and mask. Her face, covered for so long, met fresh air. Sweat streamed down her cheeks, and her pajamas clung damply to her skin. She wiped sweat from her face with her sleeve and rolled up her sleeves and trouser legs to cool off. Her scarf and mask were soaked through, so she laid them across a sun-warmed rock to dry. As she prepared to sit back down, a hissing sound reached her ears. Alert, she turned toward the noise. Coiled where she had just been sitting rested a snake, roughly 30 centimeters long, yellow, hued to blend into sand. Spiky horn, like scales, jutted above its eyes. It was a horned viper. Its coloration had let it hide unseen until now. Fatal bites from this species were uncommon under normal circumstances. But in this world, with no medicine and limited nutrition, its venom carried an extremely high fatality rate. The viper lifted its head, tongue flicking, fixated on Xiao Jinyan. She dared not make sudden moves. She retreated slowly while maintaining eye contact, hoping the snake would sense she meant no harm and leave. Once she had put enough distance between them, she snatched up her drying scarf and mask and ran. Her fitness had improved with training, yet running through loose sand drained far more energy than running on solid ground. Panic made her clumsy. Her foot sank deep into sand, and she tripped and fell. Glancing back, she saw the viper drawing near. Without hesitation, she pulled her crossbow out of storage. A bolt was already loaded. Though she had practiced aiming, the short distance worked in her favor. She aimed and fired. Whoosh! The bolt struck the viper's tail. Writhing in pain, the snake thrashed wildly across the sand. Xiao Jinyan freed her foot from the sand, reloaded another bolt, and aimed for the viper's head. Its frantic movements made targeting difficult. She seized an opening, stepped forward, and pressed her foot down firmly on its neck to pin it in place. She aimed and fired again. The shot hit home. The viper convulsed on the sand before going still. Once certain it was dead, she stored the viper in her spatial storage. This instance had broad submission quests. Almost any desert creature could be turned into the system for rewards. Low-risk creatures gave modest prizes. Dangerous creatures earned substantial rewards. The horned viper was a deadly desert predator, hard to spot thanks to its camouflage and protected by tough scales. Turning it in should yield a decent reward. She was impressed by the crossbow's penetrating power. Xiao Jinyan checked the time. It was nearly 3 in the afternoon. She ate while following her positioning coordinates back toward camp. She closed the map once her thatched hut came into sight. As she walked, she noticed something wrong. Several men surrounded her hut in the distance. They rummaged through her belongings, and one of them had even torn off the roof of her thatched shelter. Noticing she had run into robbers, Xiao Jinyan quickly crouched down, using the tall sand dune to hide her figure as she cautiously observed movements around the straw hut. Though Xiao Jinyan possessed weapons, she knew she stood no chance against 3 opponents. She was not foolish. Boss, this guy's totally broke. There's nothing here. The scar-faced man they called the boss rummaged around and found nothing. He spat in disgust. Ugh, what a worthless pauper. I've never robbed someone this destitute. What bad luck. Only when the men had walked far enough to vanish from sight did Xiao Jinyan slowly stand and head toward the straw hut. She had not checked the chat channel for the past 2 days. It seemed open robbery had now become commonplace. Xiao Jinyan gazed up at the sky and fell into thought. It was even possible some people had resorted to desperate acts. Under such circumstances, robbery hardly came as a surprise. She shook her head and quickened her pace. Today's haul had been substantial, and she could not wait to examine it. Back at the straw hut, Xiao Jinyan first reattached the roof the robbers had torn off. She then sat down on the blanket and stared at the drafty hut, deep in thought. People could now move freely to scavenge supplies or rob others. With no covering on its 4 sides, the straw hut posed a huge risk. What if someone saw her pulling items out of her spatial storage or opening supply crates? That would surely bring mortal danger upon her. She already had enough materials for an upgrade. She only lacked one type of ore. Yet she had no idea what this ore was, nor where to obtain it. She wished what she needed were energy stones, for she still had one left. After refitting the roof, Xiao Jinyan decided to board up 3 sides with planks, leaving only the main entrance for access. It would grow noticeably hotter inside, but she had found quite a few supply crates that day. She had planned to open them inside her spatial storage. Yet there remained the risk of being spotted vanishing out of thin air. The robbers she had encountered earlier served as a sharp reminder. Threats could spring out of nowhere at any moment. Caution was her best safeguard. She could always remove the planks after sorting through her supplies in the spatial storage. Xiao Jinyan stepped outside to double-check her surroundings. Assured no one was nearby, she focused her mind and entered her spatial storage. Opening supply crates within the safety of her space was far smarter than doing so in the straw hut. Once inside, she hurried over to her pile of supply crates. Testing each crate's rank would waste too much time. She would simply open them all. There were 12 crates in total. Upon opening every one, Xiao Jinyan obtained kitchen set ×1 including pots, pans, bowls, ladles, and other utensils, daily use gift pack ×1 toothpaste, toothbrushes, paper towels, sanitary pads, and other necessities. Fruit gift box ×1 cannon, style attack skill ×1 level 1 upgradable. Its attack covers a 5-meter radius and deals damage to all targets within range. Ordinary dagger ×1 cannot be upgraded. Attribute points ×5 or ×3. Bag of rice ×1 5 kilograms. Beef ×1 1 kilogram. Xiao Jinyan could barely contain her delight. Now she truly had everything. She would no longer worry about food or daily necessities. She could finally eat meat. Wonderful. Xiao Jinyan picked up the book for the cannon. Style attack skill first. This was an invaluable find. She opened it. It described a form of combat similar to mystical arts. Before she could finish reading, the characters lifted off the pages and floated in mid-air. Understanding what was happening, Xiao Jinyan read through every passage carefully. The words then converged into a beam of light that shot straight into her body. A surge of energy coursed through her veins before settling to rest. Xiao Jinyan realized the cannon style attack skill had fused with her. Moving to an open area, she raised her right hand with her palm facing outward and focused her will. Boom! A wave of energy burst forth from her palm. Joy flooded over Xiao Jinyan. Its power was considerable. If enemies came within 5 meters, a well-aimed strike toward vital spots such as the heart or head would kill them instantly. However, it drained physical stamina. She checked her status. Her stamina had dropped from 1 to 0 in an instant. Her limbs went limp, and she collapsed onto the ground. Damn it, I underestimated the cost. She did not lose consciousness, yet her body had no strength left. The skill packed great destructive power and had no cooldown, yet each use consumed 1 point of stamina. Xiao Jinyan turned her attention to the 5 attribute points from the crates. The system allowed her to assign them freely to any stat. This suited her perfectly. Lying on the ground, she closed her eyes and summoned the 5 attribute cards into her grasp. She tapped the cards and spoke, +2 stamina, +1 agility, +1 mental capacity, +1 luck. Name: Xiao Jinyan. Charm: 3. Mental capacity: 3. Stamina: 3. Agility: 2. Luck: 3. Mental power: 7. 1 full hour was required to restore 1 stamina point. With stamina raised to 3, she could cast the attack skill twice in an emergency. She would always keep at least 1 point in use so she would not collapse, avoiding exhausting all stamina unless absolutely necessary. After allocating her points, her stamina recovered to 2, with 1 point still regenerating. Her strength returned, and all discomfort faded away. She stood and brushed dust off her clothes, then sorted and stored all newly acquired items. With rice and beef, she could now cook proper meals. Unfortunately, there was no electricity. She silently hoped for a generator, preferably one powered by solar panels. Inside spatial storage, it was perpetually daytime. It would be a waste not to make use of that abundant sunlight. Once tidying finished, she checked the tomato and potato seeds she had planted the previous day. In merely 24 hours, the sprouts had shot up to knee height. She watered them with the last of her half-bottle of water before exiting the spatial storage. Today's scavenge had yielded abundant practical goods, yet no ready-to-eat food. Not even basic bottled water or bread. If this trend continued, she would run out of supplies in 3 days. The temperature inside spatial storage was mild. Outside, oppressive desert heat washed over her. Xiao Jinyan removed the planks covering 3 sides of the hut to let in some breeze. By now it was nearly 6 in the evening. Busy with chores, she had completely forgotten lunch. Strangely, she felt no hunger, likely from being past the point of hunger. She planned to have dinner around 7 o'clock. Possessing a pot greatly improved her quality of life. Still, for safety, she would cook and eat inside her spatial storage from now on. The desert breathed with scorching heat. Desert winds could carry the scent of food far across the dunes towards starving survivors. Before dusk fully settled, Xiao Jinian took some hay and wooden sticks out of spatial storage to start a fire. Desert temperatures swung wildly between day and night. The night before, she had nearly frozen. Fortunately, she had kept a scrap of cloth, wrapping herself in it to barely get through the cold hours. The warm sunlight the next day plus constant movement had kept her from falling ill. Tonight she was determined to sleep warmly. She set about building her fire while daylight remained. She dared not light fire on the flying carpet, as it could easily catch alight. Instead, she carried hay and sticks one step away from the carpet. She bunched hay into a pile on the sand and propped sticks around it in a triangular frame to build a fire pit. Surrounded by sand, she faced little risk of uncontrolled spreading flames. Once her setup was ready, she pulled out a windproof lighter and ignited the hay. Everything dried by the desert burned at once. Seated on her flying carpet, Xiao Jinian stared into the flames, her thoughts turning to the ore required to upgrade her dwelling. She had no clue where to find it. She opened the public chat channel. Messages scrolled at high speed. She held the screen and read backward. Many users were trading goods, wooden planks, timbers, self-made defensive weapons. None of the offerings impressed her. One trade listing caught her eye. Custom-made clothing. You provide fabric, I tailor garments. Multiple styles available. Service fee, 2 loaves of bread and 1 bottle of water. Other food items welcome via private chat. Xiao Jinian's clothes had worn thin. During the earlier fog event she would hang them to air overnight, yet she had never washed them. Water was too precious to waste on laundry. She tapped into the profile and recognized the seller. It was the same person who had traded chicken legs before. Evidently, they had survived the fog instance. Xiao Jinian opened a private chat. Invincible Yen, what styles of women's clothing do you offer? All roads lead to Lu. Images attached. Take a look, boss. Xiao Jinian examined them one by one. Styles were fairly similar. Short sleeve, long sleeve, and sleeveless tops. Shorts, riding breeches, and long trousers. All were pullover designs without buttons. She selected the short sleeve style and sent the image across, together with her bolt of teal, green fabric via the system trade function. Service fees were held by the system. Both parties would receive their goods only after the seller submitted the finished clothing. It was a secure transaction method. All roads lead to Lu. Got it, boss. It will be ready tomorrow. Please provide your height and weight. Invincible Yen, 170 centimeters, 52.5 kilograms. All roads lead to Lu, okay. This person must have been extremely lucky, likely unlocking some kind of sewing tool. Clothing would inevitably wear out, so this was a solid business, and the service fee was reasonable. Xiao Jinian closed the chat channel, looking forward to receiving her new clothes the next day. Dusk fell. Since she still felt no hunger, she decided to explore the area near her dwelling. Up to this point she had only scavenged far away. The surrounding vicinity remained unexplored. It was not fully dark yet. She grabbed a burning torch from the fire and took a wooden stick out of spatial storage before setting off. She held the torch low so its limited light illuminated the ground beneath her feet. She found very few supply crates, but encountered plenty of scorpions and venomous insects. She killed them all and stored them inside spatial storage to exchange for supplies via the system later. Night had completely descended. She had only located 2 supply crates. She intended to finish searching the immediate area and then head back. Tapping at brush and sand with her stick, she heard a dull thud. The sound differed from hitting a supply crate. It resembled striking stone. She almost moved on, yet curiosity drove her to dig the object out from under low scrub. It was a strangely shaped black rock. Something told her this was no ordinary stone. Could this be ore? She activated her system scanner. Scan result, ore. It really was ore. She had assumed ore could only drop from supply crates. Who would have thought it could be found like this? Most other survivors would probably toss such a strange-looking rock aside. Xiao Jinian thought to herself, that extra luck point really makes a difference. She placed the ore into spatial storage and searched the surrounding ground for more. She found none, yet she now possessed enough ore to upgrade her dwelling. She hurried back. Her fire had died down to smoldering embers which she ignored. Something far more important awaited her. Opening her control panel, she clicked Upgrade. The system automatically deducted required materials even while stored inside spatial storage. In the blink of an eye, Her drafty straw hut transformed into a circular stone building shaped like a yurt, built entirely from rock. She ran her hand along the walls. They felt solid and sturdy. The floor was paved with tightly fitted stone slabs with no gaps. There was a door, no lock, but a wooden bar for bolting it shut. She lifted the torch and stepped inside. There were no windows. A stone bed sat against the left wall. Her flying carpet rested in the center of the room, upon which sat a stone table and stone stools. Against the right hand wall stood a circular stone fire pit, its rim reaching roughly to her lower calf. The building was compact, roughly 3 meters across, centered around the stone table. This fire pit was clearly meant for heating and cooking. Her iron pot fit perfectly atop its rim. She set her pot in place. Perfect. Now she could cook dinner. She closed the door and rekindled fire inside the pit. Flames lit the whole room, warm light playing across Qiao Jinian's smiling face. The stone building would keep her from freezing through cold desert nights. It would also stay cooler during daytime heat. No more fumbling around in darkness. Sitting down on a stone stool, she took out the 2 newly found supply crates and set them on the table. She opened them one after another. Cactus pendant ×1 lowers temperature by 2 degrees within a 1-meter radius. Pair of shoes ×1, choose male/female and size random style. Both were tremendously useful. She selected her shoe size, and a pair of breathable women's sneakers materialized onto the stone table. She slipped them on. They fit comfortably. She then picked up the cactus pendant. The air immediately felt noticeably cooler around her. A 2-degree temperature difference was significant. In this harsh desert, it could mean the difference between life and death. Small and lightweight, she slipped it into her pajama pocket next to her body so she would stay cooler wherever she went. She added a couple more sticks to the fire. She still held plenty of firewood in spatial storage, enough for several nights. Inside the stone building, she no longer risked being seen vanishing into spatial storage. Food aromas would also mostly stay trapped indoors, dissipating long before drifting to distant survivors. She shut the door and braced it with a wooden beam, then began preparing her feast. Her kitchen pack contained everything she needed: oil, salt, sauces, cutting boards, and kitchen knives. She split the beef in half. One portion went back into spatial storage. She rinsed the other with bottled water and sliced it. From the fruit gift box, she retrieved small tomatoes and prepared them. She poured water into the pot and added the beef to boil. Since beef would turn tough if fried raw, parboiling was necessary. After some time, she fished out a slice with chopsticks to test tenderness. The rich aroma filled her nose. After so long without proper meat, her starved body craved nutrition intensely. She took the beef out, rinsed the pot, heated oil, fried the tomatoes until they released juice, added the beef, seasoned everything, poured in water, and let it simmer. 40 minutes later, a pot of fragrant tomato beef stew was ready. Instead of cooking rice, she wanted to enjoy plenty of meat. Admittedly, it was only half of 1 kilogram, hardly excessive, yet she loved meat. She carried the whole pot onto the stone table, which could withstand hot soup, ladled stew into a bowl, and ate heartily. Once full, she peeled and ate a banana from the fruit gift box. Life felt wonderful. Stuffed after her meal, she opened the door to walk circles around the stone building for digestion. A gust blew sand straight into her mouth, so she quickly went back indoors. Seated on her stone stool, she submitted all the venomous snakes, vipers, scorpions, and insects she had hunted that day to the system. After submission, she received bottled mineral water ×11, apple, flavored, banana, flavored, and meat, flavored bread ×10 each, cucumber ×5, canned luncheon meat ×8, tea flavored eggs ×8, spicy strips ×3, crisp noodles ×5, large barrel purified water ×5, carton of pure milk ×1, broccoli ×2. Her supplies were now truly abundant. She no longer worried about food or water. She stored everything neatly inside spatial storage, then entered her spatial storage to rest. With water available, she planned to finish planting her tomato and potato seeds. If she got a big harvest, she would be able to unlock new seed varieties. After planting the remaining seeds and watering the field, Qiao Jinian brushed dirt off her hands. The tomatoes she had planted earlier had already borne several plump, glistening little fruits, ready to be harvested the next day. Qiao Jinian stepped out of her spatial dimension and laid some hay across the stone bed. She still had no pillow or quilt. She wondered if that person Dalu, Xiaolu, Dosher, Lu could make bedding. Yet she had neither cloth nor cotton right now. Sighing, she pushed the thought aside for later. Xiao Jinyan climbed onto the bed and placed her cactus pendant some distance away before closing her eyes. Nighttime temperatures had dropped, so she did not need the pendant for cooling. As she drifted toward sleep, she mapped out her plans for the following day. The next day, dawn had barely broken when Xiao Jinyan was outside practicing her boxing moves. The morning temperature was perfect, unlike the days and nights when she headed out empty-handed and came back loaded down. Inside the stone hut, a pot bubbled away on the fire. Xiao Jinyan had cooked porridge mixed with chopped broccoli for herself. When the time felt right, just before the sun peeked over the horizon, she took a 5-minute rest and then picked up her crossbow to train. Running, boxing, and crossbow practice had become her daily routine. Even so, she craved more martial arts manuals or offensive abilities like the attack cannon technique. No one could ever have too many self-defense skills. She kept training until the sun rose high and the air grew warm. After a quick wash, she set about making breakfast. A great day began with a good meal. She opened a can of luncheon meat, sliced it up, peeled a tea egg, and arranged them neatly on a plate. She ladled out the porridge and set everything on the table. Perfect. She had intentionally cooked extra porridge so she would have ready-made food to eat out in the wilderness if she could not make it back by noon. Once full, Xiao Jinyan doused the fire inside the stone hut, tied on her headscarf and face covering, then shut the door behind her. There was nothing of value inside anyway, and no one could cart away the stone building. Still, closing the door felt like a necessary ritual. Oh, that stubborn sense of ceremony. Today she headed southeast. Along the way, Xiao Jinyan scavenged everything she could find in the desert, like a thorough looting robot. It struck her as strange. She had traveled for days without spotting a single living soul. Where had those people who raided her straw shack come from? Thanks to her cactus pendant, she did not swelter as badly as the day before, though she still sweated profusely. Glancing up at the sun, she saw it was 12:30. She found a patch of shade, removed her headscarf and face covering, and pulled out a bottle of water to wash her face and hands. After catching her breath, she took out the morning porridge from her spatial dimension. It was still as hot as when it had first finished cooking. She set it aside to cool. While waiting, she bit into an apple. Trekking across the desert drained far more stamina than traveling over flat ground, but it made for excellent physical training. She could now complete 2 extra sets of boxing forms each day. The progress was obvious. She was not satisfied with her morning haul. Every supply crate she scanned turned out mostly to be Tier 1, with only one Tier 2 crate among them. She prayed silently that she would find more high-tier crates in the afternoon. Pleased when she finished her apple, the porridge had cooled enough to eat. She wolfed it down and set off again in search of crates. With her cooling pendant, she did not want to waste a single moment. Her plea seemed to have been answered. In less than an hour, she located 2 more Tier 2 crates. As usual, she stored them inside her spatial dimension. When she lifted her head, a man stood right in front of her out of nowhere. He held a rusty sickle stained with dried blood. Every sign told her he meant harm. Hand over everything you've got if you want to live. This is a robbery. Xiao Jinyan stood calm and met his gaze directly. Seeing her unruffled demeanor, the man raised his sickle high. Don't play dumb. One swing of this thing is no joke. Xiao Jinyan studied the scrawny man. He might have overpowered an ordinary woman, but he had picked the wrong target in her. This man was in for terrible luck. Instead of striking immediately, she spoke evenly. I have nothing. No food, no supplies at all. Lies. I saw you. 1 second those crates were in your hands, the next they vanished. You've got some special ability. Hand it over or else I boom. The man's body crumpled to the sand, a gaping hole torn in his chest. Killing for the first time unsettled her, yet Xiao Jinyan had long known this moment would come. She had watched forensic dissection videos before, so it took her only 30 seconds to compose herself. She walked over to the corpse, confirming he was thoroughly dead, then glanced at the wound. The attack cannon technique worked wonderfully. Ding! A system notification chimed. Xiao Jinyan opened it to read, "You have eliminated 1 player. Would you like to loot his equipment?" Her eyes lit up. You could get loot from killing people? She tapped yes. In an instant, she was teleported to the man's home, another Tier 3 stone hut. To her surprise, another man was present inside. Who the hell are you? Where did you pop up from? Xiao Jinyan arched an eyebrow and said nothing. The second man sized her up from head to toe. You look well kept. You must have plenty of good stuff. Hand it over and I'll spare your life. Somehow producing another sickle, he aimed it straight at her. What are you doing? Robbery, of course. Boom. This man also collapsed onto the ground with a hole through his chest. Robbers really came to for one these days. Using the attack cannon twice in quick succession cost her 1 stamina point, dropping her stamina from 3 to 2. She still retained 1 point, so she felt no severe physical strain. With the threats dealt with, she began ransacking the hut. She searched every corner but found almost nothing worthwhile. For a Tier 3 stone hut, it sure held nothing but sticks and hay. Even so, she stored all of it into her spatial dimension for firewood. Apart from those, she salvaged a handful of moderately useful items and left the worthless trash behind. It seemed this hut had reached Tier 3 purely by luck, thanks to Mind Ore. It was a shame she could not take the building with her. She had tried storing it in her space before, only to receive a red system warning for violating rules. No use longing for what she could not carry. She prepared to activate the system and return to her original location. Just then a new prompt popped up. The stone hut remains unrecycled. Are you certain you wish to abandon it? Her finger froze mid-tap. She could not move the hut, but she could recycle it? She immediately selected recycle. In 1 second, the stone building vanished from the sand. In its place lay a dull black rock. Or, a wonderful surprise. She hurried over, picked it up, examined it, and put it away in her space. She had spent 3 whole days before finding a single piece of ore. She did not know its uses beyond upgrading stone huts, yet something this rare had to be valuable. It might prove useful in the next instance. Only scrap littered the sand where the hut had stood. It was a pity there was no junk dealer around, otherwise she would have sold every bit for credits. She scanned the ground one last time for usable items and found none. She had no interest in picking up smelly socks and random rubble. She tapped return at last and reappeared beside the first robber's corpse. Blood had dried around the body. Under the blazing sun, it was already starting to reek, drawing scavenging creatures. Her face covering blocked most of the stench. Climbing onto higher ground, she waited until enough creatures gathered around the corpse, then charged down swinging a stick, beating them down wave after wave. The hunt yielded decent spoils, all of which could be traded for food. She did not linger there and kept searching for supply crates. She planned to head back early and cook herself a hearty meal, having burned through stamina twice. Killing for loot had been an unexpected bonus, but she was no mindless killer who hunted everyone she met. Still, if wicked people crossed her path, she would not hesitate to claim their spoils. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she turned for home along a different route, tracing a wide semicircle across the desert. Traveling this way let her keep searching for supplies on the return journey. Unfortunately, crates along this path were almost all Tier 1. Her luck was worse than in the morning. Back at her stone hut, she circled the building to check for intruders. Seeing no footprints but her own in the sand, she stepped inside, propped the door shut, drank some water to rest, and entered her spatial dimension. Today marked the 3rd day since she had planted her seeds. Her tomatoes and potatoes ought to be ripe. Sure enough, bright red tomato fruits caught her eye the moment she stepped inside. She washed her hands and picked the tomatoes, gathering 5 large fruits, each nearly half the size of her palm. Her potato plant had also matured. The soil was loose, and she dug the tubers out with her bare hands. The tomato and potato seeds given by the spatial dimension bore fruit only once and could not regrow for further harvests. She finished gathering 5 tomatoes and 5 potatoes in short order. 10 total crops unlocked 1 new seed type. She chose chili peppers. She had intended to yank the old plants out by hand to sow her 5 new chili seeds, then remembered. This was her spatial dimension. She could uproot, harvest, and plant purely with her mind. She smacked her forehead, annoyed she had forgotten that feature. Using her willpower, she pulled the old crop plants free and set them aside. They vanished instantly, absorbed by the space itself. She paid it no mind and exited the dimension to prepare supper. It was still daylight. She had begun heading back at 3, and even moving quickly, she had arrived after 6. She needed to get cooking fast. Her high daily energy expenditure demanded good nutrition now that she had ample resources. Before cooking, she submitted the day's hunted creatures to the system in exchange for food. Along with water and basic groceries, She received 2 jin of prawns. Those would be tonight's main dish. She enjoyed nearly all meat, except fish covered in countless tiny bones. Supper turned out lavish: braised prawns in rich sauce, pan-fried luncheon meat, and blanched broccoli. She stored the finished dishes inside her spatial dimension and set another pot to steam rice. While waiting for the rice, she opened her supply crates. She went through all the tier 1 ones first, getting plenty of practical items, better results than she had feared. 3 tier 2 crates remained. She opened them one by one. Camping tent ×1, solar power generator ×1, first aid kit ×1. Every single item was something she badly wanted. The generator and medical kit spoke for themselves. With the tent, she could travel much farther in search of supplies. She could camp out overnight instead of rushing back every single day. She stored everything away and checked her pot. Fragrant rice filled the stone hut. After eating her fill, she sat on her stone bed drinking milk and holding a set of clothing she had traded for with Dala the day before. The full name was too long, so she simply called her Dalu. The fabric felt good in her hands, with tight, neat stitching and no loose threads. She had also received several bolts of cloth today and messaged Dala to make 2 more styles of garments. Dala mentioned she could also make cloth shoes, but Xiao Jinyan declined, having already obtained several good pairs. Carrying her new clothes, she went into her spatial dimension to bathe. Water resources were abundant now. In previous days, water had been too precious for full baths. She had only wiped herself down to stay reasonably clean. Now shelves were stacked with bottled mineral water, and she held more than 10 large water barrels. More than enough. With no bathtub, she washed quickly and changed into her new clothes. The bathwater was dark with grime and unsuitable for watering crops, yet too valuable to pour out, so she left the basin sitting in her space. Stepping back out, she lit a fire and sat beside it drying her hair. She left the door ajar, gazing out at the night sky dotted with moon and stars. For a moment, she drifted back to memories of childhood, living in the village with her maternal grandparents. The next day, before heading out, Xiao Jinyan double-checked the hut for anything left behind. She closed the door and departed, setting off toward the west. This instance was not overly difficult, and she wanted to stockpile as many supplies as she possibly could. Moving westward, she investigated every clump of grass and every small creature she spotted. In the distance, she noticed a group of about 5 people, men and women mixed. Xiao Jinyan concealed herself in shadow and observed them quietly. It felt almost as though they sensed her presence because all of them suddenly turned and looked directly toward her hiding spot. The next instant, someone tapped her on the shoulder. "Hey there, beautiful lady." Shocked, Xiao Jinyan leaped backward, crossbow raised in her hands, watching the stranger with full alertness. "Easy now. We only want to make friends. My name is Zhang Qing." He gestured toward the distant group. "That is our Blaze Squad. Our Captain Qin you sent me to ask whether you would like to join us." Xiao Jinyan studied the bright red-haired man. His innocent smile did nothing to ease her wariness. She had been certain nobody stood behind her a moment earlier. He had appeared out of thin air, meaning his power was considerable. She dared not lower her guard. "Sorry. I have no useful skills, and I am not interested in joining." Zhang Qing raised an eyebrow. "We offer good treatment. Women receive special consideration. 3 meals a day and shelter. Won't you think it over?" "No, thank you." Her refusal was firm. To her surprise, he did not press further. He sighed with exaggerated regret. "Very well. It seems fortune is not on my side. Farewell." He tossed her a playful glance as he turned to leave. Watching his retreating back, Xiao Jinyan sensed something off yet could not put her finger on what it was. She planned to wait until the group moved on before coming out. She had barely taken 2 steps when the world spun violently, and she collapsed onto the sand. Strong hands slipped under her armpits and dragged her away. When she regained consciousness, night had fallen. She was bound tightly to a boulder beside a campfire. Only Zhang Qing sat by the flames. Xiao Jinyan strained against her ropes, unable to break free, and stared hard at him. "What is the meaning of this?" Zhang Qing bit into his meal and glanced over at her. "I want you on our team. Since you refused my polite invitation in daylight, I had no choice but to bring you back by force." Xiao Jinyan rolled her eyes inwardly. What an irrational nuisance, wasting half her day. "I will ask you one last time. What exactly do you intend to do?" Zhang Qing finally stood, brushing imaginary dust off his clothes. He walked up to her and lifted her chin with one hand. You're sharp-witted. I want you to join Blaze's squad and fight alongside us. Before he could finish speaking, Xiao Jinyan vanished from the boulder. His hand hung suspended in empty air. Where did she go? He scanned his surroundings warily. Silence stretched all around. Whoosh! An arrow sliced through the air. Zhang Qing teleported nimbly out of its path. Haha, a feisty one. I like that even more. Xiao Jinyan felt thoroughly disgusted by his smug attitude. 3 crossbow bolts flew toward him in quick succession. He dodged the first 2 with uncanny movement, but the third buried itself in his thigh. Seizing her opening without giving him time to recover, Xiao Jinyan unleashed her attack cannon technique straight for his heart. At the very last moment, a flash of golden light deflected the blast. The power slammed into the sand beside him, blasting a huge crater. Sand swirled everywhere, obscuring vision. She could barely make out a shadow. With 1 bolt left, she fired it, not aiming for a kill, only to distract him and buy time to charge up another cannon strike. Once the dust cleared, she launched her attack cannon and called out to him. Sorry, I have no interest in joining your squad. Right before the blast would have hit him, Zhang Qing mumbled some incantation she could not hear. The next second, he rocketed away across the desert like a shooting star. What kind of ability is this? Xiao Jinyan noticed that Zhang Qing activated his skills every time by speaking aloud, as if reciting some kind of incantation. Zhang Qing had held back, and Xiao Jinyan knew it. Someone who could knock her unconscious without a sound could never be only this capable. Xiao Jinyan sat on the sand to catch her breath, staring blankly at the 2 large holes in the ground. She had thought she was strong, and sometimes even grown complacent. It seemed there were plenty of people far more powerful than her. She was still not strong enough. She needed to keep pushing herself. Night had long since fallen. She had been abducted by Zhang Qing before she could eat lunch, and her stomach was already growling fiercely. Having wasted so much time today, Xiao Jinyan made up her mind to set off extra early tomorrow. Though she had fought with Zhang Qing, or at least, that was how Xiao Jinyan saw it, the fire he had lit earlier still burned brightly, untouched. His leftover meal was covered in sand, so Xiao Jinyan kicked it aside. Using the fire, she pulled out the skewers she had collected before to roast. Xiao Jinyan was impatient. She had never bothered cooking the skewers one by one, thinking it was far too slow and a waste of time. Now, however, she didn't mind. She had already lost plenty of time today. A little more would not make much difference. She pulled out skewers one after another. Once one finished roasting, she took the next from her space. She already had all the seasonings prepared. The beef sizzled over the flames, releasing an incredibly tempting aroma. Just moments ago, she had sworn repeatedly that she had to grow stronger. Now, with grilled skewers in hand, all those thoughts vanished. It tasted too good to care about anything else. Ambition could wait when there was food to enjoy. By the time she finished eating, it was nearly 11 o'clock. Xiao Jinyan felt worn out, even though she did not seem to have accomplished much that day. She found a suitable spot and took out her tent to set it up. She tied 2 corners firmly to rocks with rope. For the other 2 corners, she could only drive stakes into the sand. The stakes were not very secure, but with 2 sides anchored to boulders, the tent would at the very least not blow away or collapse in the wind. The next day, Xiao Jinyan set off extremely early. When the sky was barely starting to lighten, she had already located quite a few supply crates. Once daylight fully broke and visibility cleared, she spotted a figure lying on the sand far ahead, a woman. The woman's chest rose and fell steadily, and an unnatural flush tinted her cheeks. She was likely running a fever. Xiao Jinyan ignored her and continued searching for supply crates. She originally planned to walk around the woman and press onward. But close beside her grew a large camel thorn bush. It looked as if something valuable was hidden inside. After a moment's hesitation, Xiao Jinyan walked over. She rummaged through the bush and, sure enough, found a supply crate, a Tier 3 crate. This was the first Tier 3 supply crate she had discovered in this instance. Her intuition had been right. It definitely held precious items. She did not stow it into her space right away, planning to store it once she moved a short distance away from the woman. She had just lifted one foot to leave when her trouser cuff was suddenly grabbed. Xiao Jinyan pulled her leg free forcefully and kept walking. But the woman who had seemed feeble and on the verge of collapse surged with unexpected strength, scrambling to her feet and grabbing tight onto Xiao Jinyan's arm. "Please help me. I can trade you something in return." Xiao Jinyan paused and turned to study the woman carefully. She wore short sleeves and long trousers, the same style as the clothes Xiao Jinyan had traded for with Dalu. Her frame was not thin, which meant she was doing fairly well and had surplus resources to make new garments. Xiao Jinyan spoke solemnly. What do you have to offer? A spark of hope lit up Lun Yan's face. I can make clothes and shoes. I have cotton to sew quilts and pillows. I also have meat. I can give you all of it. Xiao Jinyan pondered silently. Someone who could craft clothes and shoes. Could this be the person behind Dalu and Xiaolu, the traders she had bought ready-made clothing from before? Most of what Lun Yan said held little appeal, but the mention of quilts and pillows made Xiao Jinyan's heart stir. She had slept on dried grass for ages, and she ached for soft bedding more than anything. She asked Lun Yan what she wanted and how she expected to be saved. If the woman hoped Xiao Jinyan would take her back to the stone house, feed her, and nurse her back to health, she would refuse outright. It would not be a worthwhile deal, and there was a risk she might be raising a threat who could strike at any moment. So, what exactly do you want me to do to help you? I only need one fever-reducing pill. How can you be certain I have medicine? Medical supplies are extremely rare right now. Lun Yan loosened her grip on Xiao Jinyan's arm. I cannot be sure. But judging by your clothes and your condition, you are well supplied. Besides, the outfit you are wearing was made by me, so I thought I would try asking. How can you be so sure I got these clothes from you? There must be others who know how to make clothing in this zone. That's impossible. I am the only one. Lun Yan's tone was unwavering, and this piqued Xiao Jinyan's curiosity. What makes you so certain? Lun Yan realized she had slipped up, but she needed Xiao Jinyan's help, so she decided to speak. I cannot share many details, but I can tell you this. Every skill obtained from crates is unique. Once someone acquires a skill, no other player can gain it. Xiao Jinyan raised an eyebrow. She had just uncovered quite an interesting secret. Pretending to retrieve medicine from her pocket, Xiao Jinyan actually pulled it out of her space. Here. I only have one. If you lose it, that is not my problem. Lun Yan quickly took the pill from her hand. Thank you. There was no water, so she swallowed it dry. What do you want in exchange? I want 2 quilts and 1 pillow, each fitted with a cover. Lun Yan agreed immediately. That can be done. What is your name? I can send them to you through the system right away. Xiao Jinyan was caught off guard. There is a gift-sending function on the system? Lun Yan hesitated and stammered, unable to give a clear answer. I have access to the function. I will send them to you shortly. Xiao Jinyan stared steadily at Lun Yan without speaking, making the woman grow uneasy. Lun Yan was tempted to confess everything, but then Xiao Jinyan spoke. You can call me Woody Yan. Many people received clothing made by Lun Yan. She could not possibly remember every customer's name. Very well, I will remember. As she spoke, she opened her control panel, searched for the name in the friend request section, and sent a friend invitation to Xiao Jinyan. Xiao Jinyan opened her own panel and accepted. The next second, a system notification popped up. A player is sending you a gift. Please check your inbox. After seeing the alert, Xiao Jinyan said to Lun Yan, I have received them. Without another word, she turned and left, leaving Lun Yan staring at her retreating back. Lun Yan had developed a fever after venturing out to search for crates too late yesterday. She failed to return to her dwelling before nightfall. Temperatures plummeted after dark and sandstorms swept across the desert. Unlike Xiao Jinyan, she had no storage space to carry food. She endured cold and hunger all night on the barren, exposed sand with nowhere to shelter against the wind. It was no wonder she fell ill. She was fortunate to run into Xiao Jinyan. If she had encountered anyone else, she knew things would not have gone so well. She was lucky she had goods to trade. After resting a while longer, Lun Yan felt her strength return. She opened her map coordinates and headed toward her stone house, which was locked, so she did not need to fear theft. Meanwhile, Xiao Jinyan continued forward. The farther she traveled, the more supply crates she found, yet venomous scorpions and snakes grew increasingly common. Just as the system warned, danger and opportunity existed side by side. She planned to keep traveling deeper for the rest of the day before turning back tomorrow. Her tent lacked a mattress, forcing her to sleep directly on sand. She had laid dried grass inside, but the wind howled against the tent all night, making rest nearly impossible. Xiao Jinyan missed her stone house terribly. It was sturdy, soundproof, and blocked nearly all outside noise. Survival demanded many hardships. By midday, the sun blazed at its hottest. Even with her cactus pendant lowering the temperature, Xiao Jinyan still sweltered. No one would wander out this far in the scorching heat, so she decided not to worry about being spotted and stepped into her personal space. As soon as she entered, cool, fresh air washed over her skin. It was incredibly comfortable. She lay on the ground to enjoy the sensation for a while before standing up to prepare lunch. Now that she owned a generator, she no longer needed an iron pot to cook rice. She could use an electric rice cooker. Xiao Jinyan had also stacked stones inside her space to build a cooking hearth identical to the one in her stone house, making meal preparation convenient. She set the rice to cook, prepared her ingredients, then went to check her vegetable plot. All the plants looked lush and fresh, ready for another harvest soon. Once she finished eating, Xiao Jinyan stretched out on the grass to mull things over. Her personal space was so pleasant that she never wanted to leave. She had entertained the thought of staying inside permanently, but quickly dismissed the idea. The space produced no food on its own. Once her supplies ran out, she would have to venture outside again. What if everyone else had leveled up drastically by then, powerful enough to defeat her effortlessly with a single move? She valued her life far too much to take that risk. After resting sufficiently, she resolved to head back out. Laziness would only make her more reluctant to move. She stood, took one last look at her thriving land within the space, and prepared to exit. Right before she stepped out, something unexpected happened. An invisible, strange force pulled at Xiao Jinyan. Her vision spun wildly, and in the next instant, she found herself back inside her stone house. Xiao Jinyan stared around in confusion. Where had she been transported? What was going on? As she wondered, the mechanical voice of the system echoed once more. Warning. Desert slaughter is about to commence. Defeating guardians may drop their equipment. Defeating butchers yields no drops. Players must be wary of butchers. Death at their hands will result in lost equipment. Final notice. Check the room announcement at the doorway. Failure to comply will incur severe consequences. Xiao Jinyan snapped out of her shock, hurried to open the door, and stepped outside. A floating notice materialized in mid-air. Room announcement. When night falls and the moon rises, players may draw identity cards. If you draw the butcher identity, grab your axe and defeat guardians to claim their equipment. If you draw the guardian identity, upgrade your fortress and craft weapons as soon as possible to avoid being slain by butchers. The secret to upgrading lies outside your door. Note, all players are prohibited from using personal skills in this round. Upgrading your fortress is your only path to survival. Xiao Jinyan understood. The game was raising the difficulty because they had adapted too well to the desert. The mode sounded familiar, similar to a casual mobile game she had played before, yet with several key differences. The moon appeared, and a single character floated before her eyes. Draw. Xiao Jinyan tapped it vigorously. Draw, draw, draw. Her identity card materialized. She was a guardian. Her task was to upgrade the fortress and build defensive weapons. The moment the identity card appeared, her stone house underwent a dramatic transformation. The single-story building expanded upward into 2 floors. The ground floor was empty, with its main door tightly sealed. A staircase led upward to the 2nd floor, which was also unfurnished. There was no roof on the 2nd floor, built like ancient city walls for observing the surroundings. 3 empty frames lined the waist, high parapet, each labeled, Construct. They likely represented 3 defensive turrets she could build. Xiao Jinyan tapped one, only to receive a prompt that she lacked sufficient gold coins. Beside the turret construction menu hovered a palm-sized miniature red house icon, the shop. She opened it and saw countless pieces of equipment and powerful skills that made her eyes light up. But she had no money to purchase any of them. Xiao Jinyan had no idea how to obtain gold coins. She tried activating the turrets, yet they would not fire. Crossbows and daggers from her space could not be wielded either. She could only take food out of her space. She attempted to open the chat channel to search for useful information, but it remained locked. She could only rely on herself. She searched every corner of the fortress for clues, and suddenly spotted round golden orbs drifting in the air outside the building. Xiao Jinyan's heart leaped. Gold coins. The system had said the secret to upgrading was outside the door. What powered upgrades? What bought equipment? Gold coins. Where were the gold coins? Outside the door. She sprinted down the stairs, ready to rush out and collect as many coins as possible once the door opened. The door remained locked, however. The system notified her that the game had not officially begun. She waited anxiously until the countdown sounded. Slaughter countdown. 3, 2, 1. Slaughter commences. The instant the announcement ended, Xiao Jinyan threw open the door. She scanned left and right, confirmed no one was nearby, then charged outside. She pulled a plastic bag from her space to hold the coins, her only convenient container. Her space could only retrieve items now and could not store anything new. She reached out to grab a gold coin, yet it vanished the moment her fingers made contact. She tried several more times with the same result. A thought struck her, and she raced back to check the shop inventory. Sure enough, the 5 coins she had touched were now listed in her personal backpack. The collection mechanism was surprisingly convenient. She needed no bag to carry them. She tossed the plastic bag aside and began tapping every floating coin with both hands. Once she gathered all coins around the fortress, she headed back inside. Collecting coins meant nothing without upgrades. She panted her way up to the 2nd floor and spent 12 gold coins to build 3 Tier 1 flame turrets, each costing 4 coins. Every subsequent level required twice as many coins as the last. Shortly after the turrets were constructed, a pale green protective barrier enveloped the fortress. Next to the shop, a new interface appeared displaying the barrier's health bar. It seemed the barrier also required upgrades, or butchers would break through and kill her. Upgrading the barrier to Tier 2 cost 100 gold coins. She only had 67 left. She needed many more. After a short rest, she rushed out to collect coins again. Coins respawned after a cooldown. The cooldown lasted 10 minutes. Coins close to the fortress were safer to collect, but she could not afford to wait idly. A butcher might level up drastically in that window. Xiao Jinyan ventured farther to collect coins, and to her surprise, distant coins held greater value. The coins near the fortress were each worth 1 unit, but when she returned, she discovered the distant coins counted as 2 each. She knew she had not collected that many coins, yet her backpack held over 500. The value multiplier applied to distant coins. This trip was well worth it. She now had plenty of funds. She quickly upgraded the barrier to Tier 2, then raised all 3 turrets to Tier 3. She kept the remaining coins aside to purchase combat skills once butchers arrived. The shop stocked basic abilities, immobilization, continuous damage, and mind distraction. Higher tier options included Beast Cage, Lightning Summon, and Recovery, which instantly refilled the barrier's health. The most expensive, highest ranked skills stood alone, Life Drain. Upon activation, it instantly depleted a butcher's health bar. It was one ability Xiao Jinyan coveted deeply. She cleared all accessible coins around the fortress and decided not to travel any farther. The nearby coins would finish their cooldown soon. Xiao Jinyan stood on the 2nd floor scanning the landscape when a figure came into view. A woman clutching an axe, her eyes glowing crimson, sprinted straight toward Xiao Jinyan's fortress. The flame turrets only targeted enemies within their attack radius. They would not fire until the butcher drew near enough. Xiao Jinyan's gaze sharpened. The butcher had arrived. As soon as the woman stepped into range, the 3 turrets opened fire. Tier 3 turrets launched fist-sized fireballs once every second, steadily chipping away at the butcher's health bar. This butcher was only Tier 2, likely the first other player Xiao Jinyan had encountered, and the first butcher she faced. She was fortunate the opponent was low level. If she ran into a Tier 3 or Tier 4 butcher, she would be in grave danger. Every fireball striking the woman reduced her health gradually. A Tier 2 butcher lacked sufficient defense to withstand sustained fire from 3 Tier 3 turrets. It was not long before the woman collapsed. After defeating the Tier 2 butcher, 200 gold coins appeared in Xiao Jinyan's backpack. Secretly, she hoped to face a stronger opponent who could put up a proper fight. Weak low, tier butchers revealed almost no useful information. She still knew nothing about how butchers leveled up, whether they could purchase skills, or what abilities they possessed. Xiao Jinyan remained blind to most rules and could only continue adapting as she went. The delay of the battle allowed the nearby coins to respawn. She hurried out to collect another batch before returning to the fortress. The longer the match dragged on, the greater the risks. She dared not slack off. Her coin reserves were abundant. So she upgraded the barrier to Tier 4 and raised all turrets to Tier 4. She saved the leftover coins to buy combat skills. She barely had time to catch her breath before a familiar, annoying voice drifted over. "Hello there, lovely lady." Lines of frustration creased Xiao Jinyan's forehead. This man addressed every woman he met with that line. She turned around and stared at him coldly. After Qiao Jinyan got a clear look at Zhang Qing's face, she was stunned for a split second. It's you. The injuries I sustained last time still ache. How could you bring yourself to attack such a handsome man? I held back then. I don't need you to hold back. Victory belongs to the winner, and I accept defeat. Qiao Jinyan glanced at Zhang Qing's level floating above his head. He was already level 4, so she could not afford to let her guard down. Don't be ungrateful. Rest assured, I'll hold back this time too. It wouldn't be any fun if you ended up badly injured. The moment he finished speaking, Zhang Qing lunged forward in an instant, appearing right in front of Qiao Jinyan's protective barrier. Only then did she see clearly that the weapon in his hand was no ordinary butcher's axe. It must be an upgraded mutated axe. Blow after blow rained down. Even with 3 level 4 flame turrets firing non-stop bursts of blue flames at full power, the health bar of the protective barrier visibly drained. Meanwhile, Zhang Qing's health bar barely moved at all. He must have equipped some kind of skill. Qiao Jinyan had plenty of gold coins, so she opened the shop and searched carefully for suitable equipment. In the end, she purchased an item called Freezing Cold for 3 feet. Freezing Cold for 3 feet. When equipped on a turret, it slows enemy attack speed by 10%. Cannot be stacked. The price was reasonable, and stacking was not allowed, so she only bought one and fitted it to a single turret. From the blue flame shot out by the upgraded turret, Qiao Jinyan vaguely spotted round ice spheres flying alongside the fire. She looked back at Zhang Qing and saw his movements had slowed significantly. His attack speed dropped, yet the turrets kept firing at their original pace. The 3 flame turrets unleashed continuous fire toward him. Sensing that something was wrong, Zhang Qing hastily retreated beyond the turret's attack range. Zhang Qing narrowed his eyes at Qiao Jinyan. You forced my hand. Don't blame me if you get hurt. Right after he spoke, Qiao Jinyan watched as Zhang Qing activated an unknown skill. His figure swelled several times larger, and every exposed muscle turned blood red. Zhang Qing had entered a berserk state. Seeing this, Qiao Jinyan quickly upgraded her protective barrier, refilling its health bar completely. She then upgraded each of the 3 turrets by 1 level. Her gold coins were nearly exhausted, so she halted further upgrades. She wanted to observe how powerful Berserk Zhang Qing was before making more decisions. Now enlarged and towering, every heavy step Zhang Qing took sent tremors rippling through Qiao Jinyan's fortress. He strode up to the barrier. The mutated axe in his hands vanished, replaced by his fists as big as buckets slamming against the shield. Each powerful punch chipped 5 health points off the barrier. At this rate, the barrier would shatter within minutes. She frantically browsed the shop. Her gold coins were limited, forcing her to choose between upgrading the barrier or purchasing a useful item. She could not afford both. The barrier's health fell to half as she hesitated. Suddenly, a thought struck her. Her barrier and turrets were both level 5, while Zhang Qing remained level 4. No matter how strong a level 4 butcher was, he could not own top-tier equipment. Such items cost far too much. If his equipment was not the highest tier, its effect could not last indefinitely. Otherwise, the balance would be completely broken. If such a permanent skill existed, every butcher would buy it and become overpowered. The system would never permit that. The so-called slaughter simply meant butchers hunting survivors. With this realization, Qiao Jinyan closely tracked every movement Zhang Qing made and soon spotted a clue. His attack speed continued to drop, and each punch now only drained 3 health points from the barrier instead of 5. Qiao Jinyan's eyes lit up. This was her chance. Without any more hesitation, she bought the equipment she had set her sights on. Now you get a taste of berserk power too. The second the equipment activated, Qiao Jinyan's protective barrier turned the same blood red as Zhang Qing's body. And the flames from the 3 turrets shifted to crimson as well. The turrets' attack power more than doubled, and they maintained maximum firepower for 30 full seconds. Zhang Qing paled in shock and realized he was in grave danger. He turned and attempted to flee beyond the turret attack range as quickly as his bulky body allowed. Upgrading turrets only boosted their attack power, not their firing range. He was almost clear of the range. So Qiao Jinyan spent her last remaining gold coins to buy a capture net. A split second before he escaped, the net ensnared his body tightly, sending him crashing to the ground, unable to move freely. Zhang Qing tried to wriggle slowly out of the attack zone like a worm. But the flame turrets seized the opportunity and kept firing at full strength. Zhang Qing's health bar plummeted rapidly. What had been 80 health points fell to only 8. He would not survive more than a few more seconds. At this critical moment, the turrets suddenly stopped firing, their red glow fading away. Xiao Jinian thought they had malfunctioned and rushed to pat them, desperate to restart the attack. When they reactivated, they only shot ordinary blue level 5 flames, and the red hue of the barrier also disappeared. Xiao Jinian understood instantly. The berserk effect had expired. 30 seconds were up. When she looked toward Zhang Qing again, he had fled while the effect wore off. Anger welled up inside her. Damn it, he got away once more. After Zhang Qing left, she never encountered another level 4 butcher. The highest level opponents she faced were level 3, no match for her level 5 turrets and barrier. After an unknown stretch of time, the moon sank below the horizon, and pale dawn light spilled across the distance. Day had broken. The instant daylight arrived, her fortress reverted back into the familiar stone hut. Xiao Jinian struggled to make sense of what had happened. One moment she had finished lunch and rested comfortably. And the next she was abruptly pulled away and told night had fallen and the slaughter was starting. Where had the rest of the day gone? She had no energy to dwell on the mystery, worn out, exhausted, and starving. She had remained in a constant state of high alert all night without rest. She forced down a little food to settle her stomach, laid out her bedding, and fell fast asleep the moment she touched the bed. When she woke up, it was past 2 in the afternoon. She prepared a decent late lunch and planned to head out to search for supplies. She had no idea whether another slaughter would take place that night, but several hours remained until dusk. So she decided to venture out. She did not travel far, only scavenging near her stone hut. She had already combed through this area thoroughly before. She returned to the hut as darkness crept in. Expecting to find nothing, she was pleasantly surprised to discover 2 supply crates. She stored them in her space to open later. Ever since finding the crates, constant system notifications about unread messages had been distracting her. So she hurried to open her control panel. There were no messages in the chat window. Instead, a new points icon had appeared. When she opened it, she saw she possessed 100 points. Was this what the system had been urging her to check? But what could she do with them now? The control panel featured a trading market and sales section. After browsing, she found no goods purchasable with points for the time being. Perhaps a dedicated points shop would unlock later. She could not be certain, but the points system must serve some purpose. Points had only appeared today, meaning survivors who safely survived the slaughter were rewarded with them. Xiao Jinian looked up at the sky. Visibility dwindled, and the moon was about to rise. She lit a fire and waited inside the stone hut. Time ticked by without any alerts. She stepped outside and saw the moon hanging high, yet the system had not announced a slaughter. It seemed she could rest peacefully tonight. She entered her personal space to cook a meal, harvested ripe produce, and stored it away. She received new cabbage seeds, planted them, and exited the space. Visibility was poor after dark. Even with headlamps and other light sources, wandering the desert at night carried unnecessary risks. 9 o'clock in the evening. Xiao Jinian was wide awake. She practiced martial arts until she broke out in a sweat. She had memorized every move from the basic martial arts manual. She did not expect these techniques to win fights against others, as most people wield unique spells or equipment. She trained simply to stay fit and to defend herself if a situation arose where all special abilities failed. She bathed inside her space, lay down on her stone bed, and forced herself to sleep to fix her reverse schedule. Scavenging would be difficult if she stayed awake all night and drowsy during the day. She woke long before dawn the next morning, having slept barely 2 hours. Unable to fall back asleep, she climbed out of bed. Instead of washing inside her space, she brushed her teeth and washed her face outside the hut, gazing at the stars and moon overhead. Hurry up and dawn, she thought eagerly. She was desperate to search for supplies. As if her wish had been heard, the strange pulling force swept over her and dragged her away. Xiao Jinian landed heavily on the ground and stared at the stone hut ceiling. She had been standing right at the doorway. Couldn't the system let her step inside first? The slaughter struck regardless of day or night. With day and night constantly shifting, it was impossible to track how many days had passed. She quickly finished brushing her teeth and splashed water on her face. The familiar mechanical system voice rang out right after. It was time for the card draw once more. This time, Xiao Jinian pulled the butcher identity. A glint appeared in her eyes. This was the perfect chance for revenge. Zhang Qing, you will not have an easy night. As a butcher, she stood at the doorway waiting for the countdown dot, which began shortly afterward. 3, 2, 1, slaughter commences. Xiao Jinyan rushed to push open the door, yet the doorway vanished the moment her hand made contact. More accurately, her entire stone hut had disappeared. She smiled. The system had thought of everything. Butchers left their shelters to hunt, and if the hut remained in place, rival butchers could sneak in and ransack it. With that understanding, she sprinted forward. An unfamiliar lightness washed over her body. Her speed and strength had doubled even without any equipment. With proper gear, she would easily be able to scale walls and leap across rooftops. Butchers also leveled up by collecting gold coins. Since butchers operated outside fortresses, every coin they picked up was worth 1 unit. She gathered coins while searching for Zhang Qing, checking fortresses one by one. Empowered by her new butcher identity, she ran tirelessly. After an unknown length of time, she spotted the familiar figure. He was busily collecting gold coins, completely unaware of her approach. Xiao Jinyan gripped her axe and shot forward like an arrow, appearing right in front of him. She lifted the axe high and brought it down with all her strength. The axe narrowly missed his hair and slammed into the ground. She had failed to strike him. A cold chill ran down the back of Zhang Qing's neck, and he dodged sideways just in time. When he saw who his attacker was, disgust crossed his face. "You're like a persistent pest that never goes away. The feeling is mutual." Xiao Jinyan skipped unnecessary banter. A quick victory was ideal. Though tracking Zhang Qing had wasted time, she had collected many coins. She had already leveled up to level 4 and purchased all practical items she might need, ready for their decisive battle. Gold coins near Zhang Qing's fortress had not respawned yet, so he had ventured farther out. He never expected to run straight into Xiao Jinyan. They were still a good distance away from his fortress. Xiao Jinyan intended to defeat him while he lacked the protection of his base. If he made it back, upgraded turrets, and bought equipment, the fight would grow far harder. She unleashed all her pent-up frustration. She activated her berserk skill. Just like Zhang Qing the other night, her body swelled several times larger, her muscles turning crimson. She closed the distance to fleeing Zhang Qing in 3 strides, lifted him off the ground like a small chick, and slammed him forcefully into the dirt. Not stopping there, she pummeled every part of his body with her bucket-sized fists, landing blow after blow without mercy. Eventually, Zhang Qing's body was badly mangled, unrecognizable, and motionless. Still, Xiao Jinyan refused to take chances and stood guard beside him. While the survivor shop held no revival items, she refused to let her guard down, staring fixedly at his body. Her berserk state faded, and her axe returned to her grasp. She struck his body several more times with the axe to ensure he could not recover. She separated his remains and buried them in scattered locations before she finally relaxed. She was fully certain Zhang Qing was dead, as a system notification confirmed she had eliminated a survivor. She planned to search his dwelling once the slaughter ended. Half the night had passed. After killing Zhang Qing, she wandered slowly across the desert collecting loose gold coins. She spotted another fortress ahead but chose to ignore it. She would not attack unless provoked. "Hey, look over there, a female butcher." "Where?" "Wow, she's quite good-looking." Xiao Jinyan had intended to circle past the fortress when the voices reached her ears. 3 men stood atop the walls. The speaker was a white-haired man and a green-haired man. A third man with a scar stood silently between them. His gaze made Xiao Jinyan uncomfortable. She kept her expression calm as she calculated the risks in her mind. 3 people occupied 1 fortress. They could gather coins 3 times as fast as a lone scavenger. Their protective barrier was level 6, fitted with advanced turrets. They were likely level 6 or 7 turrets. With 3 people pooling gold coins, their resources were abundant. The threat level was far too high. Xiao Jinyan never took reckless risks. She ignored their whistling and walked onward. What she did not know is these were the same group that had raided her makeshift shed before. They left empty-handed and tore her roof apart in frustration. Though unaware of that history, she marked the location of their fortress. It was not far from Zhang Qing's shelter. After the slaughter concluded, she planned to search Zhang Qing's place first, then swing by this fortress to test her luck. Once the slaughter ended, her weapons and martial arts would work again, giving her a fighting chance. She encountered no more opponents afterward. The slaughter ended, and she was transported back to her stone hut. Without resting for a moment, She headed straight to Zhang Qing's shelter to scavenge his belongings. After rummaging through everything, she realized Zhang Qing had hidden unexpected assets. He possessed several combat spell scrolls, all hers now that he was dead. Among them were a transmission array and illusory sound talisman. Reading the descriptions, she finally understood. The talisman created disorienting sensory effects that knocked her unconscious back then. And his sudden escape like a shooting star could be explained by this transmission array. She had expected far more valuable treasures, but these two items were better than nothing. Free loot was always welcome. Aside from the scrolls, she found plenty of food and drink. With few other useful supplies. She reclaimed the stone hut and obtained a piece of ore, then traveled toward the scarred man's dwelling following her memory. The slaughter had just finished. Everyone who had endured a long night of fighting would most likely choose to rest first. She soon caught sight of the scarred man's stone hut. She hid behind cover to observe from afar. The hut had no windows, so she could see or hear nothing. Just as she prepared to circle around to the back, the door swung open. The white-haired man stepped outside, unfastening his belt to relieve himself. He was separated from the others, the perfect opportunity. Xiao Jinyan crept forward behind him. At the right moment, she rushed out, covered his mouth from behind, and slit his throat with her dagger. Blood surged from his neck and soaked her hands, yet she maintained her grip, muffling his cries and pinning his thrashing body to the ground. Eventually, he went still. She turned his head and saw his eyes wide open. He never laid eyes on his attacker and died without knowing what struck him. Xiao Jinyan dragged the body aside. With one enemy eliminated, the remaining two would be easier to handle. She kicked open the hut door and fired 2 attack spells, striking each man once and finishing them off. Next came the scavenging. She collected anything useful. She even found 2 unopened level 2 supply crates, which she took with her without hesitation. She reclaimed the stone hut and gained another ore. Back in her own hut, she opened the 2 crates and received 2 attribute points. She allocated them to stamina and luck. Name: Xiao Jinyan. Charm: 3. Mental power: 3. Stamina: 4. Agility: 2. Luck: 4. Spirit power: 7. Once this was done, overwhelming exhaustion crashed over her. She skipped dinner and collapsed onto her bed to sleep. She woke to daylight. Truthfully, she could no longer tell how many days had passed. After washing and eating a simple meal, she opened her points panel. She now held 300 points. The first 100 came from surviving the slaughter as a survivor. The extra 200 were butcher rewards. Being a butcher was far more profitable. Full of energy after eating, she planned to resume scavenging and test the transmission array. According to the instructions, movement followed one's thoughts. In other words, she could travel wherever she pictured in her mind. Xiao Jinyan wasn't sure herself, so she decided to test it. Each use of the teleportation array cost 5 points of mental power. She tried to figure out where to go but drew a blank. She had no idea what any of the places in the desert were called. Maybe she could set a distance instead? Closing her eyes, Xiao Jinyan murmured, "Send me 20 kilometers away." Suddenly, her body felt weightless, and she shot off like a shooting star. By the time Xiao Jinyan regained her senses, she stood amid boundless desert. Wow! With this thing, searching for supplies will save so much time. With the teleportation array to aid her, Xiao Jinyan could hunt for supplies far more efficiently. As she searched, she bit into a tomato. Juices burst forth the moment her teeth sank into the fresh, crisp flesh. Fruits are a must if you want good skin. Xiao Jinyan happily gathered supplies all day long. When the sky began to darken, she teleported back to the stone hut. Once inside, she entered her spatial storage to open all the supply crates. Setting aside all the miscellaneous items for later, she picked up a solar lamp from the ground and turned it over in her hands. Great! A lamp! She finally had a solution for lighting. She missed her bright room terribly every night trapped in the pitch-black stone hut. Despite being worn out from searching, she stepped out of her space right away. She mounted the lamp onto the roof, then pulled out an electric drill to bore out a stone slab in the center of the ceiling. She lowered the lamp through the opening and hammered the slab back into place. When she flipped the switch, brilliant light flooded the entire room. She cooked a satisfying meal and was just about to dig in when a dull thud echoed outside the door. Could it be an enemy attack? Xiao Jinyan crept toward the door and pulled it open a crack to peer outside. No one was in sight. Glancing down, she spotted a woman collapsed right on her doorstep. The noise must have been the sound of the woman crashing into the door when she fainted. She could not be certain whether the woman was truly unconscious. Raising her hand, she aimed at the figure on the ground, ready to unleash her cannon-style attack the second the woman moved. She slowly pushed the door fully open and saw that it was a woman. Xiao Jinyan nudged her with her foot. Seeing no reaction, she bent down to look. The moment she saw the woman's face, Xiao Jinyan was surprised. It was none other than Lun Yan, the woman who had begged her for medicine not long ago. An acquaintance. But that was none of her concern. She had no way of knowing if Lun Yan was alive or dead. She simply dragged her off to the side and left her there to fend for herself. Brushing dust off her hands, Xiao Jinyan returned inside to finish her dinner. After cleaning up, she lay down on the stone bed, waiting for the massacre to begin. 1 hour passed. Then 2. When Xiao Jinyan opened her eyes again, dawn was breaking. You've got to be kidding me. It's almost daylight. She stood up and opened the door. Wondering if the slaughter would start in the daytime, she quickly cooked a meal and laid back down on the stone bed to wait. 2 more hours slipped by, yet nothing happened. Could the massacre already be over? Xiao Jinyan opened the control panel to check the regional population count. 64,801 people. The number stunned her. Only more than 2,000 people died in the first dungeon. Yet over 20,000 had perished in the second dungeon before the event even officially ended. Now she understood why the massacre never began. The regional population had dropped to a number satisfactory to the system, so the slaughter was terminated early. She opened the chat channel. Guys, the damn massacre is over. Does anyone have hemostatic medicine? My leg got cut by raiders. Speaking of looters, I passed a stretch of desert and saw 3 bodies lying there. 2 of them had huge holes in their chests. It was terrifying. From the description of their wounds, Xiao Jinyan guessed the victims had run into Scarface and his 2 partners. They deserved what they got. Bored, she closed the channel and prepared to head out to search for supplies once more. Just then, someone knocked on the door. The sound was different from the dull thud the night before. This was someone pounding hard against the wood. Xiao Jinyan cautiously opened the door and found Lun Yan standing there. After fainting from hunger, Lun Yan had woken up. Spurred on by survival, she crawled to the hut. She spotted in the distance and banged on the door to beg for help. When the door creaked open, Lun Yan saw hope. She lifted her head weakly and recognized the face in front of her. It's you, can you please save me? Xiao Jinyan stared at the woman, who looked frail, her lips cracked and bleeding. She was a little shocked Lun Yan had survived the night. After a moment's thought, she spoke. Why should I save you? Lun Yan gasped for breath before answering, I know many useful skills. I can heal wounds. I also have storage space filled with plenty of valuable items. Xiao Jinyan paid no heed to most of what she said, but her eyes widened when she heard about storage space. She had been told each skill existed only once. Where had Lun Yan gotten a space ability? You have storage space? How big is it? Lun Yan was no fool. Give me something to eat first, then I'll tell you. Xiao Jinyan tossed her a loaf of bread. Lun Yan grabbed it and wolfed it down so quickly she choked. Cough, cough. Do you have any water? Try harder and swallow it. With no water available, Lun Yan thumped her chest. She forced the bread down. The single loaf was far from enough to fill her stomach, but it restored a little of her strength. She slowly stood up, leaning against the wall for support. Lun Yan pulled her top aside, revealing a diamond-shaped tattoo on her shoulder blade. I once drew a storage card. After I activated it, it fused into this tattoo. Inside, it's 2 meters long, 2 meters wide, and 2 meters high. Xiao Jinyan eyed her skeptically. You say this is storage space. How can I verify it? Lun Yan lifted her shirt higher and waved her hand. A strange machine landed steadily on the sand at Xiao Jinyan's feet. She waved again, and the machine vanished. You said every skill only appears once. Lun Yan looked straight at her. You also have storage space. It was a statement, not a question. Xiao Jinyan stayed silent, waiting for Lun Yan to continue. It's true that each skill only exists once. What I have isn't technically called spatial storage. It's a container. Xiao Jinyan thought she grasped the truth. Skills were divided into different tiers. Take spatial storage, for example. Her own space was vast, upgradable, and even allowed planting a top-tier ability. Lower-tier versions like Lun Yan's were small, unable to expand, and only good for storing and retrieving objects. Only one top Tier version of each skill existed, yet countless low-tier variants could appear. Now that she understood, Xiao Jinyan felt relieved. She noticed Lun Yan hesitated, seemingly wanting to say something more. Is there anything else? Lun Yan summoned up her courage and voiced her request. Can you take me in? Xiao Jinyan frowned. Why would I take you in? I have nowhere to stay. My stone hut was raided by a group of people. I barely escaped with my life. Oh, your lack of shelter is not my problem. Lun Yan's hopes sank when she saw Xiao Jinyan's unyielding expression. But she tried one last time to persuade her. I can make clothes and cook meals. I can heal your injuries when you get hurt. I also know many self-defense techniques. I won't be a burden. If you're so capable, how did you get robbed? Why didn't you use your skills to fight them off? Lun Yan looked embarrassed. I don't have any offensive abilities. All my skills are defensive. Xiao Jinyan had not expected that. Her skill set was extremely one-sided. You can heal wounds. Why didn't you cure yourself when you had a fever before? I only unlocked the healing ability after I found a level 3 supply crate on my way back while I was sick. That was unexpected. Still, Lun Yan had managed to acquire quite a few skills just from what she mentioned. Xiao Jinyan only had 3, and 2 of them were looted from other people's equipment. Anyone who could find this many skills must have an incredibly high luck stat. What's your luck value? 6. How much? 6, why? Nothing. Xiao Jinyan stared at Lun Yan for a long while, deep in thought. Can your support skills only affect yourself, or can they be used on teammates? I can include teammates, but the maximum number is 3 people. In the end, Xiao Jinyan agreed to take Lun Yan in. The woman's high luck would undoubtedly lead them to plenty of valuable supplies in the future. Besides, all of Xiao Jinyan's skills were offensive. The teleportation array and ghost sound talisman counted as equipment she had seized, not skills she obtained herself. Lun Yan only possessed support abilities and posed no threat to her. In this endless survival world, having a traveling companion did not sound half bad. Lun Yan stepped inside the stone hut and looked around. Though it seemed empty, she guessed all belongings were kept inside spatial storage. Xiao Jinyan told her to sit down first, then served her some leftover porridge from the morning and handed her a tea egg. Wow, there's porridge. Eat quickly. I'll sort out a bed for you. Lun Yan was grateful Xiao Jinyan had saved her. She could not let Xiao Jinyan do extra work for her. No, let me handle it later. I'm fine. Just eat. We're heading out once you finish. Lun Yan did not argue further and ate quickly, afraid of delaying their plans. There was only one stone bed in the hut. Xiao Jinyan pulled planks of wood out of her space and laid them across the floor, topping them with dry grass. She turned toward Lun Yan. Do you have a quilt? I have one. Lun Yan answered with her mouth full. She finished eating in a hurry, then pulled a quilt out of her container and spread it over the grass. It felt soft and comfortable. Conditions are limited. This will have to suffice for now. Lun Yan was just glad to have food and shelter. She had no intention of complaining. It's perfect. I love it. My name is Lun Yan, Lu as in mainland, Nian as in longing. What should I call you? I'm Xiao Jinyan. You can call me Boss Yan. It sounded imposing. She finally had a follower of her own. Understood, Boss Yan. After eating her fill, Lun Yan brimmed with energy. Boss Yan, let's go hunt for supplies right away. Xiao Jinyan saw Lun Yan was in decent shape, so the two of them set off. Boss Yan, your door doesn't have a lock. Xiao Jinyan glanced at the doorway. There's nothing valuable inside. Locking it is pointless. That won't do. Lun Yan pulled a lock out of her own storage and secured the door. All set. Let's go. Xiao Jinyan grabbed Lun Yan before she could walk forward. Boss Yan, what? Xiao Jinyan activated the teleportation array and transported both of them instantly. It was a shocking experience for Lun Yan, who had never undergone teleportation before. She collapsed onto the sand and vomited violently. Ugh. A bottle of water appeared in front of her. She took it and rinsed her mouth. Boss Yan, that was way too intense. Xiao Jinyan patted her shoulder. You'll get used to it. They continued traveling. An hour later, Xiao Jinyan could not deny the power of high luck. Over the past hour, Lun Yan kept stumbling onto supply crates of high tiers again and again. Xiao Jinyan could not help asking, has it always been like this for you? Lun Yan blinked in confusion. Like what? Always finding so many high-tier supply crates. Yeah, there are loads of them around here. Haven't you found many, Boss Yan? I have. Just nowhere near this many. Hey, I sense good things over there. Let's go, Boss Yan. Xiao Jinyan watched Lu Nian dash ahead excitedly. Comparing themselves was simply disheartening. By noon, Lu Nian had burned off the small meal she ate that morning and slowed down. Xiao Jinyan's space only allowed her to enter alone. She could not bring anyone else inside. For lunch, they each settled for a bucket of instant noodles. The moment Xiao Jinyan tore open the packaging, Lu Nian's gaze remained fixed on the noodles. Xiao Jinyan tossed her a bucket. Hurry up and eat. Thank you, Boss Yan. Life is great following you. We even get instant noodles. Xiao Jinyan thought about the piles of Tier 2 and Tier 3 crates waiting inside her space. You don't need to thank me. Since you're with me, I won't treat you poorly. Besides, instant noodles are nothing. We'll have far better food later. Got it. I look forward to living the good life with Boss Yan. Xiao Jinyan admired Lu Nian's mindset. No matter what hardships she endured, she could bounce back quickly. Night fell. Exhausted after a long day, the two returned to the stone hut and slumped onto their beds. I'm worn out. Xiao Jinyan felt drained too. Lu Nian's incredible luck kept them constantly on the move, discovering crate after crate nonstop. Perhaps her luck had run out. At first, they found plenty of high-tier crates and later only low-tier ones, yet the quantity was still impressive. Midday arrived, and Xiao Jinyan's stomach rumbled loudly. You said you can cook. You'll be in charge of meals from now on. Lu Nian perked up immediately. Leave it to me. She pulled out the strange machine she owned. What is this? It's an automatic cooking device. Just put ingredients inside, and it can make all kinds of delicious dishes. I've used it all the time before. The food tastes amazing. Xiao Jinyan remained skeptical, but seeing Lu Nian's confident expression, she took out various ingredients and handed them over. Lu Nian placed all the ingredients onto the circular tray on top of the machine. The ingredients vanished instantly, replaced by the hum of machinery working. That's it. We just wait for the food to be ready. The second she tasted the finished meal, Xiao Jinyan believed her. The flavor was outstanding, far better than anything she could cook herself. They finished eating quickly and headed out once more. The two enjoyed 2 relatively peaceful days like this until familiar text appeared in the sky. Countdown, 8 hours. The poisonous insect swarm was coming. Xiao Jinyan did not feel much fear. She had hunted countless venomous insects, scorpions, and snakes over the past few days. They held no terror for her. They ventured out to gather one final batch of supplies while time remained. When only 1 hour was left, they stayed inside the stone hut. Xiao Jinyan stored the solar lamp away to prevent scorpions from damaging it. She sealed the hole she had drilled in the ceiling tightly, reinforcing it firmly. They lit a fire inside the hut, once again left without electric lighting. She wrapped chains around the door multiple times and locked it, propping heavy furniture against the frame from within. There we go. Perfect. This place is basically an impenetrable fortress now. Night fell. Lu Nian lay on her makeshift bed resting her eyes. Optimistic as she was, she could not truly fall asleep. Xiao Jinyan also lay awake. Before long, rustling noises echoed outside. The sound grew louder, as if countless creatures surrounded the entire hut. Claws scraped against the door, producing grating sounds, yet the door held firm. As time ticked by, both women drifted toward sleep. Suddenly, faint tremors traveled through the ground. The movement was subtle, but Xiao Jinyan noticed it. She opened her eyes sharply. Lu Nian beside her was oblivious, struggling to keep her eyes open. The shaking intensified. Xiao Jinyan knelt and pressed her ear against the floor. Boss Yan, what are you doing? Lu Nian fought against drowsiness and saw Xiao Jinyan on the ground. The floor is cold. Let me help you back to bed. Shoo, don't move. Lu Nian saw the serious look on Xiao Jinyan's face. Though confused, she stood still as ordered. Xiao Jinyan stood and brushed sand off her clothes. There's a massive creature nearby. Lu Nian stiffened. A big monster? Is it dangerous? I'm not sure yet. She thought they would endure a sleepless night, yet nothing further happened. What Xiao Jinyan did not know was that the population number in the chat channel kept plummeting rapidly. The noises outside never ceased throughout the day, making it impossible to step outdoors. To fight off boredom, they shifted the furniture blocking the door and cracked it open slightly to lure creatures inside. They killed every creature that wandered in, one after another, even when swarms poured through. At first, Xiao Jinyan handled all the kills. Gradually, Lu Nian grew brave enough to strike the creatures with a wooden stick as well. They split all the harvested materials evenly and exchanged them with the system for food. Most of the supplies Lu Nian traded for were different kinds of meat, while Xiao Jinian received mostly vegetables. Xiao Jinian fell silent. The uneventful day passed. That night, a fire burned inside the stone hut as they roasted skewers. Wow, these oysters are so plump. The lamb skewers taste fantastic, and the crabs are delicious too. Lu Nian spoke with her mouth full. They were savoring their meal when the stone hut shook violently. What the hell is going on? Xiao Jinian used her mental power to survey the surroundings. She could not see clearly, but she sensed the creature's general direction and enormous size. Bad news, it's a sandworm. Xiao Jinian hastily stored all leftover food in her space, then pulled Lu Nian close to the wall, signaling her to stay quiet. Sandworms were giant segmented worms that traveled beneath desert sands. They had no eyes, only a gaping maw. They hunted by sensing vibrations, stirring up sand wherever they passed. Xiao Jinian had read records about these strange creatures when she had spare time. Sandworms could not locate you if you stayed silent. But countless venomous insects and animals surrounded the hut right now, turning the building into an obvious target. Xiao Jinian moved fast, storing every loose item inside the hut into her space, including the bedding. If she could take the stone hut with her, she would have stuffed it in storage as well, but that was impossible. The tremors grew stronger. She sensed the sandworm circling close to the hut. Abruptly, she grabbed Lu Nian's arm. Teleport. The moment Xiao Jinian and Lu Nian vanished, a gigantic maw burst up from the ground beneath the center of the hut. The stone building shattered into pieces instantly. Elsewhere, Xiao Jinian and Lu Nian escaped disaster thanks to the teleportation array. But scorpions and snakes covered the terrain all around them. They advanced cautiously, constantly watching their steps to avoid bites. We can't keep going like this. Boss Yan. There are too many of them. We can't kill every single one. Indeed. Lu Nian used to scream at the sight of snakes, but now she could calmly bash small serpents with a stick without batting an eye. After killing a snake at her feet, Xiao Jinian took Lu Nian darting left and right until they finally spotted a stone hut. Without checking whether anyone was inside, they kicked the door open, rushed in, and propped the door shut tight. The room plunged into darkness the moment the door closed. All stone huts shared the same layout, and Lu Nian relied on her memory to locate the fireplace. Boss Yan, fetch some dry grass and wooden sticks. Soon, the whole room lit up. When Lu Nian turned her head, she caught sight of a figure on the bed. There's someone here. Xiao Jinian looked over and saw a desiccated corpse lying on the floor beside the bed. There were no obvious wounds on the body, and the cause of death remained unknown. It reeks, Boss Yan. They had been so focused on finding shelter that they hadn't noticed the foul stench filling the air when they first entered. Now that their tense nerves eased, the odor became almost overwhelming. Xiao Jinian and Lu Nian dragged the corpse outside together, and only then did the air feel bearable. Yet before they could fully relax, the sandworms returned. Xiao Jinian had to lead Lu Nian sprinting for cover again, but nowhere felt safe. Survivors fled in all directions across the desert. A bloodied hand suddenly clamped onto Lu Nian's trouser leg. Save me, please save me. Lu Nian stared at the blood-soaked man on the ground. She heard his desperate pleas, while the rumble of approaching sandworms grew louder by the second. She hesitated for only a single second before yanking her leg free. When she turned around, she found Xiao Jinian watching her. Boss Yan, stop staring, we need to go. Xiao Jinian spoke calmly. He looks miserable. Let's take him with us. Lu Nian's eyes widened. Are you sure? He'll definitely slow us down. But if you want to bring him along, do you want to take him? I don't. Then we leave. Having gotten the answer she expected, Xiao Jinian and Lu Nian vanished from the spot. Night fell. The two found shelter inside a high cliff crevice, far enough up that snakes and insects could not reach them. Ugh, running and hiding all day has worn me out. The cave was pitch black, so Lu Nian quickly lit a fire. Boss Yan, what do you want to eat tonight? Grilled fish. Got it. They had no need for portable cooking tools. With an open fire, they could roast and eat the fish as they pleased. Lu Nian kept her eyes fixed firmly on her fish, afraid it would burn. True to her nature as a food lover, she waited until the skin turned golden, brown, the perfect state. The aroma of grilled fish filled the entire cave. Judging it ready, Lu Nian blew on it hastily and took a bite at once. Xiao Jinian smiled faintly watching Lu Nian gasp from the heat yet refused to spit out the meat. She then turned her attention to her own fish. A low thudding sound echoed through the cave. Wait, the fish isn't that good to make someone stamp their feet, right? I didn't, boss, watch out. Sensing imminent danger, Xiao Jinyan unleashed an energy blast. A huge maw appeared before them, and a massive hole burst open in its flesh. The sandworm twisted in agony, thrashing its tail wildly, nearly sending Lun Yan flying. Knowing she could not help and would only become a burden to Xiao Jinyan, Lun Yan had already scrambled to hide in a safe corner. Xiao Jinyan glared at the enormous beast. It just would not leave them alone. Dodging threats nonstop all day had drained her completely. Sandworms lurked everywhere, offering no safe haven, and her pent-up frustration finally boiled over. She gave the sandworm no chance to recover. Leaping high the moment it faltered, she aimed 2 more energy blasts straight into its gaping mouth. The sandworm's jaw was blown to pieces. Without its mouth, its body gradually went limp and still. Lun Yan stared at the fallen giant with admiration. Her boss was incredible. She took down that massive creature in mere moments. Go, boss. Boss Yan, what should we do with it? If they handed such a huge beast over to the system, the reward would surely be excellent. Xiao Jinyan thought it over and decided to let Lun Yan submit the carcass. Lun Yan had far better luck. She could not help feeling a twinge of envy. After Lun Yan completed the submission, the system remained silent for 3 seconds before releasing the reward. A golden blueprint floated in the air. Lun Yan grabbed it and read its contents. Trading Mall. You may list any goods you wish to sell on your personal page. Items can be traded for supplies or exchanged for points. After reading it, Lun Yan looked disappointed. This doesn't seem all that useful. We can already trade through the public chat channel. The system spoke again the next instant. Trades within the public channel only support barter with physical supplies. Point transactions are unavailable. The official system mall will cease operations moving forward. All goods originally housed in the system mall will be transferred to your trading mall. You will permanently enjoy a 50% discount on all purchases. Wow, that changed everything. This was truly a valuable asset. Xiao Jinyan listened and asked thoughtfully, what cut do you take from the earnings? A 50-50 split. 50-50. The system was more reasonable than she anticipated. Between the permanent half-price privilege and the commission earned whenever others bought goods from her mall, it was a guaranteed profitable venture. Understood. Since Lun Yan had submitted the sandworm, the mall was bound to Lun Yan's control panel. Xiao Jinyan harbored no doubts about Lun Yan. She trusted those she chose to work with. Even in the worst-case scenario, if Lun Yan betrayed her, Xiao Jinyan would eliminate her without hesitation. Killing Lun Yan would be effortless for her, and all her equipment and supplies would drop and return to Xiao Jinyan's possession. Lun Yan eagerly opened the mall interface on her control panel. Empty grid slots waited for her to list merchandise. Lun Yan had collected numerous blueprints before, including sewing machines, blades, crossbows, whips, hammers, generators, and more. She lacked the raw materials to craft most of them, so those projects were put on hold. Only the sewing machine saw regular use, as its required materials were relatively easy to find. Crafting gear did not require manual labor. Materials were fed into compact black boxes, no bigger than a fist, which would assemble the items automatically. Their small size allowed Lun Yan to store them easily within her spatial storage. Now everything fell into place. Xiao Jinyan possessed all the raw materials Lun Yan needed. If she listed all these goods, they would earn a fortune. Lun Yan and Xiao Jinyan discussed pricing together and settled on moderate rates, affordable for most survivors who had accumulated some resources. Once all items were listed, Lun Yan bought a golden megaphone through the public channel to broadcast an announcement. Jinyan Mall is open. Wide selection of goods at affordable prices. Tired of going without proper clothing? Fearful with no weapons to defend yourself? Search Lun Yan Mall, we have whatever you need. Generously, she purchased 10 golden megaphones to pin the advertisement at the top of the chat channel on loop. The chat channel erupted in commotion. Wait a second, are we playing the same survival game? How did someone open a mall all of a sudden? The prices are so high. We're all survivors stuck in this place. If you're capable, why not help your fellow survivors instead of charging these extortionate rates? To be fair, these prices are reasonable. She's the only one offering these goods. If you think it's too expensive, don't buy anything. Who asked for your opinion? If you think it's cheap, buy a couple crossbows and give them to me. I don't need much, just 2 crossbows. Someone's selling their shamelessness for show. Watch your tongue. Want to settle this one on one? Ooh, someone's getting mad. Xiao Jinyan missed the heated argument unfolding in the chat. She and Lun Yan were busy anticipating their incoming profits. After the deadly battles of the previous zone, most survivors held a decent amount of points. Some traded using points, others bartered physical supplies. Small sales quickly added up, and the total earnings looked extremely promising. System commencing upgrade. 10-minute countdown begins. The system was upgrading. This desert copy was coming to an end. 3, 2, 1, welcome to the survival game. You are currently in Survival Zone 2, which holds 58,122 participants. This is your third copy, Overlord of the Seas. Your top priority is to stay alive. Death within the game equals death in reality. The Overlord of the Seas copy lasts 7 days. Complete all assigned missions to avoid execution. Finally, abundant resources lie across the ocean. Clear missions to obtain them. We wish you the best of luck. When they opened their eyes, a vast ocean stretched out before them. Behind them stood a stone hut, and sand lay beneath their feet. The sight of the sand momentarily confused them, making them think they had not yet escaped the desert. Xiao Jinyan and Lun Yan stood on an island. Several other land masses could be faintly seen in the distance. Boss Yan. The ocean is gorgeous. Lun Yan loved the sea and had never gotten a chance to see it before. Her wish had finally come true. She hopped down to the water's edge, scooped up seawater, and sniffed it. It carried no distinct smell. Something moved beneath the surface. Curious, Lun Yan knelt to peer into the water. Suddenly, a tentacle shot forward and coiled tightly around her neck. It happened far too fast. Lun Yan could not activate her protective barrier before her neck was trapped. She could not breathe or make a sound, thrashing wildly in the shallow water. Xiao Jinyan noticed Lun Yan acting strangely as she played by the waves. She activated a teleportation array and appeared beside her in an instant, spotting the octopus tentacle wrapped around Lun Yan's neck. Xiao Jinyan pulled out a dagger and sliced through the tentacle. The choking pressure vanished at once. Lun Yan gasped for air, coughing violently. Xiao Jinyan dragged her back onto the beach and patted her back gently. Huff, cough, cough. What on earth was that thing? Lun Yan pulled the severed tentacle off her neck. It was as thick as her arm. The creature must have been hiding underwater, striking the moment she stepped into the sea. A giant octopus like this should not have ventured into shallow waters. But this was the survival game. It was hardly surprising for deep sea creatures to wander close to shore. For all they knew, some fish might even walk onto land. After recovering, Lun Yan shuddered with fear. The ocean is way too dangerous. If you hadn't arrived in time, boss, I would have lost my life. Xiao Jinyan gazed out at the calm sea, lost in thought. If most resources in this copy were hidden beneath the waves, the danger would be immense. They lacked underwater gear, leaving them at a severe disadvantage once submerged. The pair returned to the stone hut. Lun Yan set about preparing food while Xiao Jinyan grabbed her crossbow to scout the surrounding area. The island was not large. Aside from a handful of scattered trees and several unexplained holes in the ground, there was nothing else of note. Finding nothing after her search, Xiao Jinyan headed back to the hut.